fantasy. I can run, I can jump, I can dance and sing. Believe in yourself and do anything.
Believe in yourself and do anything.
From within your mind, no one else can find the life that you inspire. From another place, not from outer space, from someplace even higher. From the stars, from the stars. I can walk, I can talk, I can listen and learn as the wheels in my mind begin to turn. But I'll never forget what you've given to me. The power to touch, feel it, hear and see.
The power to touch, feel, hear and see.
From within your mind, no one else can find the life that you inspire. From another place, not from outer space, from someplace even higher. From the stars, from the stars. I can touch, I can feel, I can hear and see. So much more than a fantasy. I can run, I can jump, I can dance and sing. Believe in yourself and do anything.
Believe in yourself and do anything.
From within your mind, no one else can find the life that you inspire. From another place, not from outer space, from someplace even higher. From the stars, from the stars. I can walk, I can talk, I can listen and learn as the wheels in my mind begin to turn. But I'll never forget what you've given to me. The power to touch, feel it, hear and see.
The power to touch, feel, hear and see.
From within your mind, no one else can find the life that you inspire. From another place, not from outer space, from someplace even higher. From the stars, from the stars. I can touch, I can feel, I can hear and see. So much more than a fantasy. I can run, I can jump, I can dance and sing. Believe in yourself and do anything.
Believe in yourself and do anything.
From within your mind, no one else can find the life that you inspire. From another place, not from outer space, from someplace even higher. From the stars, from the stars. I can walk, I can talk, I can listen and learn as the wheels in my mind begin to turn. But I'll never forget what you've given to me. The power to touch, feel it, hear and see.
The power to touch, feel, hear and see.
From within your mind, no one else can find the life that you inspire. From another place, not from outer space, from someplace even higher. From the stars, from the stars. I can touch, I can feel, I can hear and see. So much more than a fantasy. I can run, I can jump, I can dance and sing. Believe in yourself and do anything.
Believe in yourself and do anything.
From within your mind, no one else can find the life that you inspire. From another place, not from outer space, from someplace even higher. From the stars, from the stars. I can walk, I can talk, I can listen
Hello everyone, how are you all doing? Welcome to another Tinfoil Tuesday. Very exciting. We're on a hype train I see already, 8% to level 2. It is of course Tinfoil Tuesday, so the level of the hype train dictates what we wear. A level 5 gets us tinfoil, a level 10 gets you a maid outfit. So that's up to you. Flower Girl says homesick and get? Gnome Pickle says, okay, Mr. Lazar, so these kids have been reported missing. I have to ask, why are they here with you? Also, sir, do you did you just have them fight a giant face? Chibbers, thanks for 23 months, says believe in yourself and do anything. That's what he would want us to do. Flower Girl 13 says homesick and get to watch Tinfoil. Glad I can be here for you when you're not feeling good. Gnome Pickles, thanks for gifting a sub. MW1642, thanks for 34 months. And Humiliated Grapes, thank you for 300 bits. I think that catches us up. 25% to level 2 on the hype train. Overthought says boxy bits. Humiliated Grapes, thanks for gifting a sub. I think I need to empty the bingo card. We are doing bingo today. Oh no, did I actually already have it emptied? Wow, look at me. Good for me for not knowing I did that. Cool. There's only 47 seconds left on the hype train, 56% to level 2. So how's everyone doing? We have some crazy stuff today. Something I'm excited for is someone doing a kind of interpretation of The Shining, the movie, that's quite bad. And I love me some bad Shining theories because, hoo boy, crazy people love the movie The Shining. And they love it because they can interpret it to mean anything they fucking want. Overthought, thanks for gifting a sub. Starry Beauty with 140 bits says, save the train! 91% with less than 10 seconds. It might die. This is it. I think it's gonna die. Wow, you guys aren't even gonna get tinfoil. Fuck. Gnome Pickles with 100 bits and Bumble Homestead with 100 says, I'm dying. Oh, I'm dying hosiery for the ballet. And Nemesaur gives 10 tier 1 subs, but it was all just a little too late. We didn't even get to level 2. So we get level 1, you'll get horns, but that's it unless we do another hype train later. Better luck next time, chat. Did I like Dr. Sleep? It was okay. Like, it's, you know, it's not a good sequel to The Shining, because The Shining is one of the best movies ever made. Like whether or not you like The Shining, you have to admit, like, it is considered one of the best films ever made. It's kind of like the Beatles. Like, you're free to not like the Beatles, but if you say the Beatles suck, you're the asshole. You know what I mean? But, like, I completely lost my train of thought. Oh, Dr. Sleep. But Dr. Sleep was fine. It was fine. Alright, let's get into it. The Monkees were better than the Beatles. You like fake bands that don't play their own instruments? Great. I'm very happy for you. This is brief, but let's watch a quick 2-minute Chris video where he's just upset as per usual.
Same day. Do you know anybody that's part of the military?
No. The people I know make good choices.
I don't. That are under the oath of silence.
Is he under the impression that he thinks every member of the military is secretly aware of Flat Earth? How many people, how many Americans are in the military? There are over 1 million military personnel in the United States, which I think is like 0.33, a little less than 0.33% of the population, which doesn't sound like a lot, but we're talking about 1 million people? You think that there are 1 million people in the United States who secretly know the Earth is flat and are hiding it under oath. I'd be impressed if you could keep one person from, like, blabbing about that secret, and you think 1 million people are doing it? First name bunch of numbers says, reminds me of how I felt about Shakespeare. I think he's massively overrated, but there's no denying how influential he's been. And Austin Rosenberg says, did you watch this Saturday?
They said I was crazy. They called me a...
I didn't. Maybe we'll check that out. I like watching conspiracy theorists on their own, but I do like Eric, so... Gnome Pickles says, when I went to get my med check done, that's when they told me. Sure, they discovered my legs disqualified me, but the military had already told me before they could make me swear an oath.
Do you know anybody?
Oh yes, everyone, it's Broha's birthday today, so I demand you all wish Broha the happiest of birthdays. Bubble Homestead says, my husband had to sit through slideshows about not posting where the big expensive ship was. No way Flat Earth would stay secret.
At all. That have worked for NASA. And I'm not talking about working for NASA in terms of, behind the scenes, building the rockets and all that other nonsense. Because as
the nonsense that's rocket science.
As far as they know, they are building a rocket.
Something that is so complicated that it is synonymous with doing something nearly impossible. That's bullshit, according to Chris.
That's going to space.
Next week he's going to tell us why brain surgery's bullshit.
So,
have you ever seen your brain?
They're building it. Okay. That's what they're doing. They're building a rocket that's going into space.
Correct. One of the things NASA does.
You know, what I found out about all these fake astronauts is that there's one thing that I find out that doesn't make any sense.
Okay.
Is they keep telling us they see nothing up in space when a light source spectrum opens up as far as the eye can see. So, as far as I'm concerned, space should be all lit up with all these stars.
Chris, when stars get far enough away, you can't see them anymore. Like, if you could see every star in the universe, yeah, you'd probably be right, but, like, the stars that we see are close enough to us that their light has gotten to us, and we can still resolve it with our eyes, or telescopes, right? There are many stars, most stars, that we don't see with our naked eye, Chris. Does Chris think that all the stars we see in the sky are the only stars? Chris, there are way more stars than the ones we see with our eyes at night. Even if you were in, like, the middle of nowhere and there was no light pollution, you're still not seeing every star that exists. Most of them are not visible to us because they're too far away. Jade Reguba, thanks for 100 bits, says happy level update, Broha. And Auntie Pretzel says, fun fact, most of the stars we see now are likely already burnt out, or black holes or such, especially ones that are far away.
There shouldn't be any darkness at all. What?
No, Chris, again, because most stars are very far away. I mean, they're all very far away relative to human distance, but even, like, in space distance, most stars are very far away. That's why we can't see them. Screaming at the Radio says, to be fair to Chris, this used to be an actual scientific mystery, why the sky's not infinitely bright. If it were infinite, there would be a star directly in all directions. We now understand the sky is black because the universe has a finite age, pretty much.
Whatsoever. Fuck. People, you live on a flat land. Space does not exist.
Flat Earth on the bingo card.
You've been lied to all of your fucking life. And that's it. I'm done. I mean, really. I thank you for subbing. I thank you for viewing my videos. And let me be a part of your life.
Chris is doing awesome. He sounds so happy with his life. Ashley One Up says, "Hey Hannah, I noticed the VOD from the other day got nuked. Hope it wasn't because I got you to play that Trump song with the copyright being a bitch. If it is, I'm sorry. It wasn't that. It wasn't that at all. It had to be nuked for unrelated reasons that I'm not going to bring up. But it is gone, unfortunately. It's a rare stream that only those who were there got to see." JP Black, thanks for 17 months, says, "A very happy birthday, bro, huh? Hey, you guys want to hear about the Temporal Civil War? You know, something that is so silly that it was used in one of the worst series of Star Trek Enterprise?" They're gonna use Dixie. 'Cause Civil War. Get it?
Hello everybody, James Rink here. I am in Richmond, Virginia, and this is the Southern White House behind me. What I'd like to do is present a special...
Wait, like, as in, like, where Jefferson Davis lived? Why hasn't this been burnt to the ground?
message to you about this historical location. But before I do that, I want
Goddamn, the North did not do enough after the Civil War.
to mention something that I'm a little under the weather, so I've actually was targeted by the same people that targeted Christine W. and Robert David Steele, so I didn't die of a stroke like they were hoping, but...
We don't have delusions of persecution on the bingo card, do we? Stone Corbell says, "I live in North Carolina and there's a major highway called Jefferson Davis Highway." Gross.
I'm going to continue on here. So let's continue to our featured presentation. All right. Years ago, on the original organic timeline, the South had won the Civil War. In that timeline, the capital of the U.S. was Richmond, Virginia. And this building behind me was its presidential White House. The capital city of Richmond in this other reality was a very friendly place. The marble monuments you see in Washington, D.C. were built here instead.
Gnome Pickle says, "Send in zombie Sherman, there's some burning to be done." Hydrate. "Oh, way down south in the land of traitors, rattlesnakes and nailing." Anyone else Sherman posting? No? Okay.
Washington, D.C. In that timeline became a huge slum. Jefferson Davis...
The thing that bothered me about Jefferson Davis is he always looked like evil Abraham Lincoln to me. Like, he looks like if you were a hack writer and you were writing the Civil War, this is who you would make the evil, like, bizarro president of the Confederacy, is basically evil Abraham Lincoln with no hat. I know that's not a nuanced view of the Civil War or an accurate one, but it's the one I'm going with because it's simple.
The President of the Confederate States was Secretary of War, and he was also an architect. He designed the dome on the Capitol building in Washington, D.C. So in this other timeline, he helped design the buildings here in Richmond. Obviously, the Lincoln Monument was never built, but the Washington Monument was built here in Richmond instead. The reason why you are unable to remember these events is because history was changed. In the Temporal War at Montauk time travel facility with what is known as Operation Southern Cross.
What? What? Lugard says, "We have a lot in common, you and I." And JP Black says, "Is he referring to the fake documentary, The Confederate States of America?" No, the plot of that movie is less stupid. I've seen that movie. I like that movie.
According to Jimmy Payne, he would fly U-2 bombers out of Beals Air Force Base, which is north of Sacramento, California, and they would fly these U-2 planes through a portal back in time. And
where's the portal back in time? Like you guys remember the Twilight Zone episode where there's the plane that keeps going through time? Like, that's an episode of The Twilight Zone, and that's not an A-list episode. That's like a B-list episode of The Twilight Zone. Not a bad one, mind you. It's just, you know, it's mid. I think that the term the kids use is mid. Anyway, no, there aren't just inexplicable time holes in the sky. That was a weird running theme of Twilight Zone episodes. There were a few episodes where someone, like, went up in a plane or went into orbit, and they, like, went through time or another dimension. It was the 60s, so planes were still a new technology. You could conceivably think maybe there's time holes in the sky. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make is no, there's not time travel.
Take pictures of
Except linearly, in one direction, for all of us at the same time.
troop movements via spy plane missions. So there was this one mission that he went to during the Revolutionary War, where Jimmy Payne was tracking George Washington's Continental Army, as well as the British enemy forces. Jimmy was responsible for running the camera equipment on the U-2 spy plane, and he can confirm that the American forces were, in fact, defeated. They had no shoes, no winter coats, no food. In all intents and purposes, they were finished. So what Montauk did is they were able to guide General Washington's officers and soldiers to safety.
We were talking about Jefferson Davis in the Civil War. Why did we jump to the Revolutionary War all of a sudden? I'm very confused. Sky Comet says, what did I walk in on? This guy's explaining the temporal civil war that he thinks happened.
So we would have lost the Revolutionary War if it wasn't for the help of Montauk. So
I think it was more the French. Mostly the French.
why
And Prussian mercenaries.
did Montauk, we're going to discuss this in just a bit, why Montauk decided to help the North instead of the South, because the South, like I said, originally won the Civil War. Okay.
No, they didn't. They did not. The South lost the Civil War, because that's how time works. It happened once, it happened. Now, I don't know, maybe someday we'll definitively be like, oh my god, there really is a multiverse or some shit, and things happen, whatever. Fuck it, I don't care. Here, where we live, the South lost the Civil War. Period. Roman Civilian says, wait, so how was there a U.S. to go back and help Washington? I don't know. It doesn't make any goddamn sense, does it? It's a bootstrap paradox. Like, how do they have U-2 fighter planes if America lost the Revolutionary War? How did they have the U-2 planes to go back in time?
Okay, so, and they were doing the same thing too. They were visiting, they were going back and
Which is also an episode of The Twilight Zone, by the way, in which I believe a tank crew goes back in time and helps fight indigenous people at Wounded Knee or something. It's pretty fucked.
time to the Civil War.
Mr. Whisker says, my great-great-grandfather would be pleased to hear that from hell where slave-owning racists belong. Ashley One Up says, maybe they're so egotistical they don't want to believe soldiers in America won a war without outside help, 'cause America, fuck yeah.
And giving information to Lincoln's generals on how the North can win the Civil War, on where all the troop movements were, these pictures of troop movements. So during one of these time jumps into time, Jimmy Payne, what happened was they were going through hyperspace and they were opening up portals, and for some reason there were some pterodactyls in one of these hyperspace tunnels.
Believe sci-fi technology exists on the bingo card. Okay, so there are just random naturally occurring time portals because a pterodactyl flew into one. Multiple, I think he said plural pterodactyls. So pterodactyls flew into the time portal like the circuits of time from Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, and they almost ran into the U-2. You gotta watch out for dinosaurs in the time tunnel. Ashley One Up says, oh, no, read that. Sky Comet says, planes that go back in time, isn't that the plot of the Langoliers? Weird miniseries, but good. Sort of. Logarth says, as long as not Langoliers got through. the Langoliers are fine. The Langoliers are doing their job. They're just eating the past. You just shouldn't hang around there too long, or otherwise the CGI meatballs will gob you up. Gnome Pickles says, "Hi, I'm from the future. For proof, here is my hyperspeed plane and these pterodactyls that are causing ruckus. Now remember, never write any of this down."
And these pterodactyls exited in 1863. So Jimmy Payne was tasked with going back in time with a laser weapon to exterminate the creatures.
Well, yeah, you can't have pterodactyls flying around the 1800s, fair enough.
He arrived in a portal during a live-action battle in the Civil War between Union forces who were firing upon him, as well as the Confederate forces. So he used his laser weapon to...
I thought you said they exited in the 1830s. Didn't the Civil War happen in, like, the 1860s? Hold on. Civil War, American... 1861 to 1865. You said the pterodactyls came out in the 1830s, so were they just flying around for 30 years? I'm finding some inconsistencies in this story. I don't know if this guy really knows someone who traveled in time. I necrophage with a link.
Good answer.
Roll for barbecue. We can use that later.
To destroy a Gatling gun.
Yeah, I've listened to some of the Big Finish Doctor Who stuff. It's good. Logarth says, "This sounds like a conspiracy theory and more like an elevator pitch for a sci-fi movie." It does. A lot of the stuff this guy does sounds like that. This is the super soldier talk guy. He thinks super soldiers are real.
In 4 Unions.
Doesn't Torchwood have a pterodactyl? I've only seen the pilot episode of Torchwood, but I think so.
Soldiers. The Confederates behind him witnessed his superior firepower and noticed he was wearing strange clothing. Jimmy told them he needed to kill these pterodactyls, and over the next few days, he managed to kill the roosting birds. Okay, so the Confederates
Pterodactyls aren't birds!
boiled one of these pterodactyls, and according to Jimmy, it tastes like tough chicken. In exchange for his service, he was granted permission to meet Jefferson Davis here in Richmond, Virginia. When he arrived at the Southern White House, Jefferson Davis was unable to meet him due to emergency, and instead, his secretary greeted Jimmy. The secretary told him that the president's son, Joe Davis, was on the upper floor of the Confederate White House behind me, and the iron balcony, I'm not sure if it's on this side or the back side, by the way, and the iron bars on these windows were horizontal. So because Joe Davis fell down and he died, so the baby died, and that is confirmed, real historical event. So Jefferson Davis didn't meet him, but his secretary did, and his secretary gave him a presidential order requesting help from Montauk, because Jimmy Payne said he was going to do that, but Montauk refused to help. Because he said the Confederacy was in deep trouble, according to Jefferson Davis. So, and by the way, that event occurred April 30th, 1864. So you can look that up. And that's when this was all taking place.
Look what up? That his kid died? Like, I believe the historical event that his kid fucking died probably happened, but saying I was there the day this happened has nothing to do with whether or not the crazy time travel stuff you're saying is true. Like, imagine if I said, I time traveled to the Berlin Wall coming down. Remember when the Berlin Wall came down? That's a famous historical event which happened, so I was there. It's proven because I mentioned a thing that happened. Do you see the problem? Of course I know that happened. It's a famous historical event. You can look up any event from history and say, here's a thing that happened. I was there. The thing happening doesn't prove you were there.
Right after that point. Okay, so back in our modern era,
David Hasselhoff says hi, by the way.
In Montauk, Jimmy was told there was a faction of reptilians working against the South because they viewed a north wind more favorably, because they were more accelerated in technology development, and also because the reptilian British royal monarchy would still be around. So,
reptilians on the bingo card. Logart says, all good historical fiction is better with a bit of real history tied in like this. I would agree,
We're going to explain it
but he thinks it's real.
just a bit. Okay, so we have more on this timeline. We have more technology, and we also have a reptilian British monarchy running the world. Okay, so also when the South won the Civil War, the South didn't go, or the Confederate States did not join World War I and World War II. So as a result, during World War II, the Nazis took over all of Europe, including Britain, and took.
No. I don't think that would have happened. Assuming that the United States, at least the northern states, continued to do the Lend-Lease Act, the industry was still mostly centered in the North at the time of the Civil War and probably would have continued to be the industrial power on the continent, even if the South continued to exist as a separate entity. Like, World War II... It's hard to... I like alternate history fiction, because it's interesting to think about, but the problem with it is butterfly effect. Like, if the South won the Civil War and became a separate nation, it would change so many things in the next, like, 50, 60, 70, 80, 100 years that World War I and World War II probably wouldn't even happen exactly the same way. Like, it's kind of weird that you're assuming you can change these major things, but world events still happen relatively similarly other than the one big change. That's not how things work. Gnome Pickles says, I cannot keep up. As soon as I have processed one thing, he says 3 more crazy things.
Care of the monarchs there, the reptilian monarchs. So that's what.
Oh, and also, after Germany fucked with Russia, like, once the Soviet Union entered World War II against the Nazis instead of being allies of them, Germany was pretty fucked at that point. Like, don't get me wrong, the war would have gone on much longer, and, like, it would have been shitty and more people would have died, but still, I think even without the help of the United States as a unified, like, group, I think that the Nazis still would have lost the Second World War.
Why the British monarchy reptilians were working with Montauk to make sure that wouldn't happen. Okay. So, on both timelines, the slaves were not freed until the end of the war. So this also includes on the Confederate...
Wait. Is he implying that if the South won the Civil War, they still would have freed the slaves? Because no, it's kind of the major sticking point of the fucking war. The fuck? Don't get me wrong, I think long-term slavery, like, regardless of the Civil War, long-term slavery wasn't going to, like, be maintained. I just don't think on the scale that it was perpetrated, chattel slavery in the South, like, even by the 1860s, I don't think that would have been sustained up until, like, even the year 1900, right? I think by then it would have been, like, non-workable. But them just at the end of the Civil War winning and being like, all right, you're all free, that is not what would have happened. Fucking period.
On the timeline where the South won, Confederate President Jefferson Davis freed all the slaves. Just like
No! What the fuck? Okay, this was just silly up until now. Now I'm honestly genuinely offended, because this just sounds like... This sounds like a really long way around to trying to say, well, the Civil War wasn't about slavery. Yes, it fucking was. Yes, it fucking was. Jefferson Davis and the Confederacy would not have given up slaves anytime soon. It would have taken decades, if not longer, and it would have been a fucking shit show.
President Lincoln did. So it wouldn't matter who it was, Lincoln or Jefferson Davis. No one wanted to free the slaves during the war because it would have uprooted the financial order. And there was already, in the middle of a war, no one wants...
Fuck off! The entire reason the war started was because they didn't want to have to give up their slaves, and they also wanted to continue to expand slave economies into the New West as we continue to push westward. Like, there was a pretty decent period of time where the abolitionist faction within the United States, at least the ones at the level of, like, high federal government, were like, okay, here's what we're gonna do. We're not gonna make it so you have to give your slaves up, but we're also not going to allow it to any new states in the Union. So they were saying, like, when new states got added as we continued to expand westward, they would not be slave states. They would be free states. The South didn't like that, so that's one of the reasons the Civil War happened. But, you know, like, the top 10 reasons the Civil War happened are all slavery-related. If you fucking try and come in here and do the, it wasn't about slavery, it was about states' rights thing, fuck off. So stupid.
To be in any kind of strategic disadvantage. So, Lincoln even stated he could not win the war if he had freed the slaves early on.
Gratz, thanks for 7 months.
Neither side cared about freeing the slaves until after the war. It was publicity only. Okay, so slavery was already going out of fashion at that time anyway, due to changing beliefs and advancement in farming technology. So the Civil War was not about slavery.
Fuck off!
In my opinion, it's about states' rights. And
states' rights to do what? What did they want to do that they weren't being allowed to do, or that they felt they were going to not get to do soon?
we're gonna get into that in just a bit. But Jefferson Davis was not a bigot.
Go fuck yourself!
Which sometimes he's portrayed like that way.
Yeah, this is just slaver apologia. This is gross.
In history books. In our timeline where the South lost the Civil War, Jefferson Davis gave away his plantation to his slaves. When his wife was attacked by a drunk man, her former black slave was now her butler and protected her. Jefferson Davis also adopted an Indian boy. He was not racist at all. Davis even had a Chickasaw general, and because of this, sadly, the Chickasaw tribe lost their nation status. When the North had defeated the South, so that was...
Honestly, this is more pathetic than the fact that he thinks time travel is real.
That was in our timeline. That's why you don't hear about the Chickasaw Nation anymore, because they don't exist, because they helped the South in the Civil War. Okay, so the first integrated army was not the Union Army, it was the Confederate Army. At the Vicksburg, Mississippi National Cemetery, 25% of all buried...
Hey, fun fact, some slaves were offered, like, hey, if you come and fight in the Civil War, we'll free you. And then they didn't when they got home. They were like, haha, tricked you, fuck you. Also, slave owners would quote-unquote lend their slaves out to the Confederate Army. So a lot of black soldiers in the Confederacy weren't there by choice. They were there because they were considered property, and if they weren't going to fight, they were going to get shot in the back of the head. So, go fuck yourself. DJ Shay says, I punish thee to watch Checkmate Lincolnite 100 times, child. I need to... You know what? Honestly, I'm done with the slavery video because fuck this guy. I need the cleanse of Checkmate Lincolnites.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to Checkmate Lincolnites, the program where we destroy the pernicious lies of Republicans, carpetbaggers, Yankees, scallywags, and delineators of the Sable character, using facts and logic. My guest today is the man who runs the lion thieving, Freedmen's Bureau loving YouTube channel Octoon Shay Films. Here he is, the dollar store Jamie Lannister himself. Sir, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Now, sir, I have watched your videos about the War of Northern Aggression, and I must say, I did not care for them. Not a whit.
Okay.
Your whole argument about the slavery part of the Confederacy is false. But coming from a Yankee like you, it's not surprising. Less than 3% of all Southerners owned slaves. The war itself was over taxes. Look at the Corwin Amendment, for example. The North kept pushing taxes on us Southerners, so we pushed back. You keep pushing your Yankee propaganda like it's real. It was all about the right to be a sovereign nation. LOL, you're just a typical soy boy.
Okay, so there's a lot to unpack there. First of all, it was more like 30% of Southerners who owned slaves. And just out of curiosity, sir, did you own slaves back then?
Oh, yes, I most certainly did.
Oh, you're a monster.
LOL, look at this soy boy. Thinks slavery is wrong.
So you mentioned the Corwin Amendment. I'm glad you did. That was basically the federal government's last-ditch attempt to avoid the Civil War. Now, for those of you who don't know, the Corwin Amendment was this proposed amendment to the Constitution that basically would have guaranteed the southern states right to own slaves. I mean, potentially forever. So your implication would be that if the war was really about slavery, then why didn't the southern states just immediately go along with and ratify the Corwin Amendment? But you're forgetting that a big cause of the Civil War, and certainly the events leading up to the Civil War, were not about preserving slavery, but expanding it. I mean, you take the Missouri Compromise, for instance. And Lincoln's whole position when he took office wasn't to abolish slavery, it was to contain it. And this went directly against the Confederacy's ambitions. They not only wanted to expand slavery to the territories, they wanted to conquer Cuba and Mexico and make those into slave states as well. But you won't really hear that from people who endorse the lost cause myth.
The USA had slavery for 89 years. The Confederacy only had slavery for 4 years. When the Civil War was over, the Union still had slaves. There is your myth.
The United States was founded on the principles of liberal democracy. The Confederacy was founded to preserve and expand the institution of slavery. And for those 89 years, where do you think most of the slaves lived? I can tell you it sure as shit wasn't Ohio or Massachusetts.
Aha! Still waiting for you to address your own state's, Massachusetts' racism. Remember how they used emancipation to chase the blacks out of the state, knocking the black population from 5% to 0.8%?
That's a bullshit argument, but I'll bite. Did I ever deny that there was racism up north? Everybody knows that Boston is the racist San Francisco. I made 2 whole videos about King Philip's War and talked all about how New England was basically founded on Native American genocide.
Your time is coming. You preening, goody two-shoes New Englanders still celebrate your murderous generals like Nathaniel Lyon. Oh, just wait until the sons of Confederate veterans invades New England and treats his grave the way it merits, and we won't be using crayons.
Oh, okay, well, I can guarantee you that not one person in 100 up north knows who the fuck Nathaniel Lyon was. And I invite the sons of Confederate veterans to invade New England. That would just be really funny.
Let's move on. You have dared to criticize the statues of our brave and noble Confederate men, Davis, Beauregard, and of course, General Lee. You have called these statues racist, white supremacist. This is misrepresenting what these statues mean. They are monuments to key moments in history, like the Battle of Liberty Place. Tearing them down is no different from burning a history book. If we had to remove every statue that offended someone, well, then we would have no more statues. And the term white supremacy is not a racist one either. White supremacy does not mean black inferiority, just the same way that being proud of your black heritage does not mean you dislike white heritage. What a terrible direction the left wing has started to head these last decades. Complete denial of human rights.
Why don't you run that little theory by a black person and get back to me?
Everybody feels their group to be superior. Liberals feel superior to conservatives. Hip-hop feels superior to black metal. Superiority is a widely held belief among all humanity. But all of a sudden, when it says your nationality is superior, then it's a problem. Blacks feel superior, that's why they hang out with other blacks. Mexicans feel superior, that's why they hang out with other Mexicans. But whites are not allowed to feel superior. That's a denial of human rights. Superiority is human nature.
Hey, can I see your gun?
Oh, certainly.
Cool, thanks.
Nice.
If you liked the video, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to hit that.
If you haven't seen this guy, he has a whole series responding to lost cause, revisionist, Southern pride people. So here's a link to his channel. He's funny. The series is called Checkmate Lincolnites, by the way, so check it out. What else we got?
because it was thrown in my face at birth. You see, if, say this was called the Earth, and it's square like a cube, and if that was thrown in your face and you were taught
Mr. Whiskers, thanks for 100 bits. Becomes the stream boss.
that in school, that we live on a cube Earth that does somersaults constantly, Mickeys, constantly in space at 100,000 miles an hour.
Yeah, it looks like he has a smoothing filter on.
And we were taught that from school, we're going to believe that's true. That's what we're doing. We live on a cube Earth, doing Mickeys and somersaults at 100,000 kilometres an hour in space. And if we were taught that from birth, we're always going to believe it, aren't we? And especially if it was thrown in our faces at school, put in our library books that that's true. Of course you're going to not deny it. You're only going to believe what you were taught. But when you look at these ancestors' Egyptian carving stone wall tablets, and you look at these history of these Angartha hollow inner earth maps that go back 3,000 years ago, showing that the earth is flat, disc with a dome, with a local sun and a local moon in our sky.
None of those civilizations went to space. We have.
I've got videos myself as proof, with clouds behind the sun and the moon and clouds in front. Now, if the sun and the moon is out in space and the sun is 93 million miles in space, what am I doing looking at earthling clouds behind the sun 93 million miles out?
You cannot see clouds behind the sun. There are no clouds behind the sun.
When I shouldn't. The only way I can see that is it has to be local. And I know that because the sun's white. And isn't Solo yellow, 93 million miles away? And Solo
The
yellow...
sun looks yellow through our atmosphere, kind of, but yeah, it's really, really, really hot, so no, it's not actually yellow.
Isn't a fireball in space.
It is not a fireball, it's nuclear.
Because there's no... It's in a vacuum. It's an electromagnetic element.
Nope, it's a nuclear reactor, basically.
Heat element. I mean, you only believe what... But you do your homework, I dare you. You'd be very shocked on what you find out. Seriously, if you dedicate yourself to that homework subject, like I dedicated myself to the Hypercoaster Gate with the numbers, you dig real deep and you'll find out real truth, what's going on. You will. So we all believe that the world's round because that's what we got taught in school and at birth. See, the government could have turned around and said that our Earth is a diamond shape and we'd believe it.
But we wouldn't, because there's not evidence for that.
We'd all believe it, wouldn't we? We would.
Like, I understand the idea that, like, we tend to accept the world that we're presented with. That's not, like, a you know, original philosophical concept. It's just, again, Plato's cave. Like, we know, but that doesn't mean that the Earth is flat? You would need to demonstrate that.
And vaccinating us all through the oxygen. Think about it, everyone. And what's going to happen? It's going to affect the people that have emphysema and bronchitis and lung problems.
Did he say they're vaccinating us through the air?
It's going to affect them. But it's not affecting me because I just have a cigarette, NASA, and your little cloud seeding doesn't affect my immunity because I'm unvaccinated and I'm staying unvaccinated and no one's going to be poisoning my blood with your filthy, dirty lies that you brainwashed everybody else with.
This is Roller Coaster Guy. He loves roller coasters.
Don't think so.
I like roller coasters too, so I get it.
Because me having emphysema, bronchitis, stage 3 lung cancer, the disease, COPD, I shouldn't be smoking. I shouldn't be travelling around, sleeping in cold streets, under rocks, throwing myself in and out of bushes. What, and I can still not get sick mingle with 1 million people at Movie World, do 3,341 rides on a hypercoaster, over 4,712 kilometres and over 7,000 hours on it, and what, and still can't get sick with someone vomiting all over me and coughing and farting? I mean, people seriously need to understand. What, are you made out of a robot? No, I've got an immunity system that works. It wasn't terminated. Exactly. Terminate your blood and you're going to know about it. You're not going to be around here for much longer with blood clots. Exactly.
What in the absolute fuck?
Okay? Now, as another example as well, everyone, people got to wake up and realise what I say you think. Am I right or wrong? 9 out of 10, I'm pretty right. Now, this is the Earth they say we live on. Welcome to my education school. Now, they say that up here in Russia, now, we've got videos from, what, Discovery, National Geographic, from NASA, all showing all these beautiful Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck photos of the core of our Earth that's in the centre. Okay, so we've got to dig from here to the equator, or we've got to dig from the South Pole to the equator to get to the centre of the core. Now,
the equator is, like, by definition, the outer part, so no, you're just saying from the top to the core. I don't think you're thinking three-dimensionally.
Apparently.
But you don't actually have to go to the center of the Earth to understand what it's comprised of, and no scientist is claiming that. Geologists determine, and have determined, the composition of the Earth's, like, inner bullshit through a variety of means. Like, they're not saying they went to the center of the Earth. They're saying, based on our understanding of how to take readings of these things, this is what we think it is. It's how science works. You test things.
Our government's got photographs of the inside of this core.
No, we have illustrations, but we do not have photographs, and no one is claiming to have photographs of that.
Okay? Now, to answer this question, where did the government get them photographs from?
There aren't photographs. I assume you saw illustrations and didn't understand that they were for educational purposes and thought they were pretending to be photos, which they're not.
Because in Russia, they only drilled 8 miles deep.
Sure.
Down into the Earth. They couldn't get any deeper because everything kept on breaking up because the heat was getting hotter and hotter every 1 foot. So they only got 8 miles down and have never ever succeeded past 8 miles to the core of the Earth.
Correct.
So how did NASA and the scientists get all these Mickey Mouse photographs showing us?
They don't have photos, they have illustrations.
All this melted lava rock that's flowing around that's making this Earth spin. They've never been down any deeper than 8 miles. I think they need to go a bit deeper to see the core. And there's no tool on Earth that can get down there because as they were digging down 8 miles, the tools and the diamond tools and the drills they had were just melting to vapour because of the heat. That answers that question. They're full of shit.
Good ending. Good ending.
And all the clouds and all the helium balloons, they would all be forced and slammed to the rock of the Earth just like the billions and billions of litres of ocean water that can't move from the rock because gravity's holding it to it. But these helium and clouds seem to not be affected by this invisible gravity. It just goes around them but seems to force all this water down and not let it come back up to the cloud. You know, and the sun, that just sucks up all...
Clouds do eventually fall to Earth in the form of precipitation, like rain or snow or whatever. I wish conspiracy theorists understood like 5% more of how the Earth worked. I think it would help.
All the water that's on the ground turns it into a vapour steam, goes back up around the
Overthought with 50 bits says the real Tiger King.
side of the dome, forms up again like this, and then re-rains again until NASA comes along with their machine and push the button and spit out all the chemicals from their factory container, or they get up in their aeroplanes and push a button and start squirting like kittens in the sky, making, let me put it this way. If you understand what I'm talking about, NASA likes to seem to spray a lot of chemicals that become Charlie, Lima, Oscar, uniform. Okay.
Chemtrails on the bingo card.
Okay. Well, you know what I'm on about. I don't really need to rave on because TikTok security is virtually clicking on with my language, the way I talk. So I've got to talk in a different way. They know all my CB codes now. So I've got to stop, not say nothing. Here, let me sing you this song.
He's an interesting guy. He's an interesting guy.
Hey there. Look at it. That there's a 14 constellation system going over our 13 constellation system. Both of them constellation systems both spin inside a 37 constellation system. So you got a 37 constellation system with a 14 constellation system spinning inside that 37 constellation system.
Thanks, R.D. James.
And we are the 13 constellation system spinning inside the 14 constellation system. We all...
Oh my god, this guy's on crack. Okay, I think that's all of him I can deal with for a second. What other dumb bullshit do we have? Ooh, Tartaria, we could do Tartaria. Logarth with 300 bits says, New Hampshire House of Representatives also had a hearing today that included a, quote, parental rights bill. School has to out trans kids to parents, a trans medical ban for minors as part of the conversion therapy ban bill, and no prosecution cooperation in prosecution of trans care and abortions performed in the state of New Hampshire after they returned to their home states bill. There were 4 hours of solid people against the two anti-trans bills and 2 hours of support for the trans anti-abortion ones. Card check? Yeah, let's do a card check. Let's see, we haven't had a ton so far. Chemtrails. We're gonna have forced feminization in a second, so I'm gonna put that on. Reptilians. Flat Earth. No, not Tartaria yet. Meek says force feminize Jake. Ashley One Up says, just for 1 week, I wish I wasn't living in a time that would be taught in future history classes. Do your own research? Yes. Where is sci-fi technology? Weather control. Sci-fi technology might be on the first page. Believe sci-fi tech exists. Is that it? I think that's it. How do you get your bingo card? You gotta do the bingo command, which is ! Bingo. Astrofox got it. Thank you. MH Darkbeast says, howdy, Hannah. You know how they say our missile system runs on outdated tech? There's something else that runs on outdated tech. Chuck E. Cheese still runs on floppy disks. You know, oh, the shows are on floppy disks. That kind of makes sense. I'm sure they built really old systems for stuff. Okay, so as a trans woman, I always find it really funny when people freak out about, like, men wearing women's clothes or women wearing quote-unquote men's clothes, and people freaking out about it because who the fuck cares? I don't care what anyone identifies as or what they wear. This guy cares very deeply, though, so let's take a listen. Oh, that saxophone, though, every time.
Today's video was titled, The Feminization of Men. Men wearing women's clothes. Men wearing women's clothes. All right. We're going to talk about guys who did...
I want to point out that the guys in the pictures generally look pretty good. This guy's pulling this look off. Like, hardcore. That is a rocking fucking twink. Who was pulling that outfit off.
Just like wearing women's clothes. And there's a lot of guys out there who, as a part of their fetish, will do that.
That is a thing. Some people have a cross-dressing fetish, which is a distinct thing that is separate from trans people. I don't know if Republicans know that. They should probably learn that. There's a difference.
So if a guy is wearing women's clothing, then there's already something wrong. Okay.
Why? Who cares? The entire idea of gendered clothing is so, like, culture specific. What we consider men's clothes or women's clothes in our society is specific to our society. It doesn't matter. Wear whatever the fuck you want, whatever makes you happy.
Okay, it's like if a woman is wearing guys' clothing. There's some.
What is guys' clothing? Like, does this guy not want women to be allowed to wear, like, jeans? Like, what does he think women are wearing that is men's clothing?
Something wrong. What is driving these guys to wear women's clothes?
Have you considered skirt go spinny?
And the quick answer is it's the devil trying to make that person effeminate.
Oh, it's the devil. Thanks, Satan.
If he can make that guy believe that he is a woman, then he will be able to rule over them.
Satan can rule over me any day. Spongy Lord says men's clothing is anything that you would wear outside of a kitchen, according to this man.
Let me rephrase
Satanism on the bingo card.
Is that if the devil can make a guy believe that that guy is a woman inside, then he will be able to rule over, he meaning the devil will be able.
It's just funny that, like, these are pictures that run the gamut from, like, people just wearing clothing that they think is cute. Some, I don't know, might be wearing it in a cross-dressing way. Some seem to be funny. Like, I think this guy's doing it as a comedic drag thing, because it looks like he's wearing big fake boobies. Like, there are 1,000,001 reasons one might wear clothing that is not... that does not conform to one's gender or gender identity, and they're all different things. It's this weird obsession with this stuff that's made them all be like, I don't know if you guys have thought about this. I'm sure many of you have. The Republican obsession with drag performers. Republicans, I am 99% sure, genuinely don't understand that drag queens are not trans women, typically. Like, most drag queens are cis gay men, which is fine. Drag's a cool thing. That's great. But, like, they've associated with transness, and they don't even know that there's a difference. Occult Comics says, Hannah, we both know plenty of Republicans know what a cross-dressing fetish is. Yeah. Stone Corbell says, this really makes no sense if you think about it even for a minute. The clothes that were worn back when the Bible was written were completely different from how we would think of it now. Men would wear things we might think of as gowns or dresses now. Oh yeah, they don't take a single second to think about where they are or the context of anything.
Able to rule over that guy because he would have changed that masculine spirit into a feminine spirit. And this is what this is all about. The devil doesn't really care if you're a guy or a girl, as long as
based Satan,
he can rule over you in some way. That's all he cares about.
The devil's an equal opportunity, Dom. Good news, everyone. Ashley One Up says it's about the moral panic, not about facts. Sad face. Oh, I know. It's just frustrating. Accidentally based on the bingo card? Sure. Satan is accidentally based.
Now, for many guys, he, meaning the devil, is ruling over men by instilling lust in them, which is a feminine spirit.
Only women feel lust?
And if a guy is lusting after a woman, then the devil can easily control that guy.
Fellas, is it gay to be horny for women?
This is just another manifestation.
I don't even know if this is a trans person.
Of control that the devil
I guess you never know. You don't know what's going on with people, but like...
is exerting over men to make them into what he, the devil, is. Which is a matronly, girly guy dressed in drag. And if a guy is walking around with women's clothing on, then he is 2 steps away from being a full-fledged effeminate man who will then be able to be controlled by the devil. And
2 steps away.
That's all this is.
What are the 2 steps? MH Darkbeast says, Hail Satan. John Cena. Yeah, I saw that picture. He's got the thighs for it. Where did it go? There.
That this is. And it's all about getting control over the people so that he can rule. The devil, that's all he's looking for. And he's looking to damn those who will turn away from the roles and the things that the Lord has given them. So, again, don't believe a word that I'm saying. Sit down with the Lord Jesus Christ and ask him and say, Jesus, this guy is talking about guys wearing women's clothes. What guy is going to wear women's clothes? And this is the point. No guy is going to wear women's clothes, at least on purpose. But if
that's untrue. There are guys who wear women's clothes. That's fine. Occult Comic says, okay, he got one thing objectively correct in his rant so far.
What's this? It appears our girls are secretly being monitored. But by who? Oh no, not... I can't say it! This is a villain so evil, so sinister, so horribly vile, that even the utterance of his name strikes fear into the hearts of men. The only safe way to refer to this King of Darkness is simply... him.
I love him. Ashley One Up says, isn't most of the Bible about what a man should do if he feels lust? Women feeling has never entered into either Tenold or the New Testament. Yeah, that's actually true. The Bible doesn't really focus on the lust of women often. I can think of one verse that does, where they were talking about, I think, Mary Magdalene lusting after previous lovers or something. But typically when lust is mentioned in the Bible, it is men lusting for women, typically.
the devil can make them believe that they're a woman inside, then they will wear clothes on the outside that are women's clothes.
Sir, what's even your problem with this? Like, I understand that this guy's transphobic and he's never gonna accept, like, someone like me for being trans, but regardless, who is it hurting? Who the fuck cares? Leave people alone to live their lives. That's it. That's the whole message.
And they would have been effeminized and matronized and able to be ruled over by the devil. Your salvation.
What if that's the goal?
Is your responsibility, Christian. Take the time to recognize that what you see is not exactly what it is. If you see a bunch of guys wearing women's clothes, then you know the devil is making them believe that they're women inside. And if
Again, not necessarily. Like, drag performers are often cis gay men, or just cis men in general. Though not always. There are cis men who cross-dress because they just like it, even in a non-sexual context, or those who have it as like a fetish. There are tons of reasons why people might wear clothes that you don't consider appropriate for their gender. It's fine. Who cares?
the devil can make them believe that they're women inside, that devil is able to control them. Because the devil is only able to control those who are sodomites, as he is the king of sodomites. And if a guy's got a matronly spirit, then the devil is going to be able to rule over that person, because the devil is a matronly spirit. Take care, Christian, because this is what's going on all around you today.
Do I have a matronly spirit? The fuck does that mean?
Devil is making you a sodomite by getting you to accept cross-dressing. The devil is making you a sodomite.
Oh, transvestigation, transphobia on the bingo card.
By getting you to accept cross-dressing. All right, so basically, everybody knows what cross-dressing is. And for those who don't, cross-dressing is where a guy is wearing women's clothing. And also, if a woman is wearing guys' clothing, that's cross-dressing. What does the Lord have to say about cross-dressing? Well,
based?
Here's the scripture.
I don't care what the Bible says. I've read the Bible, not a Christian.
That shows you what the Lord says and why cross-dressing is not something that the Lord wants a man to do. Now, it's
actually funny that he said, here's why God's want you to... No, it doesn't explain why God doesn't want you to do that. It just says don't do it. That's not a why answer.
Are people who are doing this, especially...
Mr. Whiskers says this dude better not be mixing fabric.
...in the movies. And it's for a movie role. And it's also a Masonic ritual. Where
the concept of, like, cross-dressing or drag or female impersonation as a form of entertainment goes back a really long ways. Like, a very long ways.
Where a guy has to...
Only reputable source is Bible on the bingo card? Yes.
Basically humiliate himself so that he's accepted as a part of the Illuminati or as a part of the Masons or whatever it is that he's trying to deal with. It's part of a Masonic ritual. And that's the reason why you see these guys walking around with skirts and all this other stuff. You got these guys running around in skirts and in dresses and
who the fuck cares?
And everything else. And this is to basically be in with that group, whatever that group is. And this is what the devil is doing. Now, people have seen major stars.
Considering that the whole, like, men wearing skirts and dresses thing has gotten more public view, it makes me wonder if in, like, 50 years it'll be a more common thing to see cis guys, or guys in general, wearing skirts and stuff. I don't know. Just curious. It'd be interesting. Cult Comics says, Illuminati, Freemason, and satanic ritual child abuse. I am killing the bingo card game today. And Jamie with 18 months says, oh hey, it's another sub baby. I put the last one up for adoption immediately due to its name, so we'll see how this one goes. This one's name is going to be Up for Adoption. Up for Adoption.
Cross-dress. And here's some pictures that
UPFER, Up for.
Will show you the major stars that have been cross-dressing. And again, they do this because...
Again, like, comedic cross-dressing has been a thing for a very long time in media. That's very common.
Because if they don't cross-dress, then they don't get any movie roles.
Have you not... Well, this is a thing from Tootsie, and cross-dressing is literally, like, the plot of Tootsie, which is a pretty good movie. So, yeah, of course, he cross-dresses in that movie because that's the plot of the movie. Jamie says, well, that's like making null your license plate number. I've been beaten. It's ours.
But that's another video for another day. All right? What is also happening is that there are some people who are guys who actually look really good as women.
That's an admission, isn't it? I get the feeling that trans people and maybe drag performers are making this guy feel uncomfy because he likes what he sees.
Cross-dressing. And then, of course, you got those crusty guys who look pretty nasty as a woman. But, you know, it is what it is. The devil is trying to get you to accept this.
I think this is why he hammers on this so much on his channel. I think he finds some trans women and maybe some drag performers attractive, and he doesn't know what to do with that. So he assumes everyone else is struggling.
as normal. Because he knows that if you start to accept this, and you cross the Lord by basically telling him, hey, I like wearing a dress.
The Lord can go fuck himself if he cares what I'm wearing. Meek says, it's an unfortunate trope, but it's a trope nonetheless.
The Lord's going to have nothing to do with you, and he's going to turn you over to the devil. And that's exactly what the devil wants. And so this is the reason why you see this all the time.
He has a lot of random pictures of trans women saved. You notice that?
So again, don't believe a word that I just said. Sit down with the Lord Jesus Christ and confirm with him what I'm saying. Your salvation is your responsibility, Christian. And I'm going to be blunt. If you are cross-dressing, you are a sodomite. And that's exactly what the devil wants. And if he can make you a sodomite, then he can rule over you as a sodomite. Even if you are heterosexual, and if you are doing sodomite behaviors, the devil will be able to rule over you. And you will be under the auspices of that devil and not of Jesus.
Weird guy. Red Werewolf says, Purim just ended. I remember my male rabbi dressing up as Easter or Esther for Purim spiels growing up. Don't know what the Lord has an issue with it. Alright. Moving on. I think this is a QAnon thing. Yeah, this is going to be Q claimed as a source because this person is doing Q decrypting.
Good morning, everyone. This is Broadcasting the Seed. And today is not going to be very long at all. But I just wanted to bring to your attention, again, a drop that was given to us on November 18th, 2022. And as you can see here, we have Runbeck, Dominion, SOS offices, investigators, researchers, whistleblowers, patriots in trusted positions. Trust yourself. You have seen the truth. Time to show the world. Focus. Focus. Ascension. Q. Now, I want to let you know that I'm going to be leaving.
The Lord made us naked. Maybe we should all be naked. Fun fact, I am naked under these clothes, so.
Giving you.
I'm there.
Two links. They are to the same house. One second. They are to the. Let's see. Senate Actions and House Municipal Oversight. And this is the Elections Joint Committee. And I'm telling you right now, this is a bombshell. And
is it?
It was delivered on February 23rd, 2023. And it is riveting testimony. And it is showing evidence of the government, of many government officials colluding with the cartel, the drug cartels, the trafficking cartels, money laundering cartels.
Just every cartel.
And other parts of what they do. There is evidence of this now, and the information is being dropped, so I would like to leave you the two links. One is from somebody who has the recording, and then through General Flynn, who has responded to it. So in case one of those clips may have an issue, that you may have an issue with, you'll at least have two sources to get to the same video. And so I'm going to leave that for you. And let's see. One second. Press the bell to get all notifications. You got to see this right from that.
Okay, let's watch the Shining thing. So, I don't know if you guys know this, but there's a lot of crazy people out there. Some of those people like movies, like I do. I'm a big fan of movies, as you guys all know. I have a quite large movie collection, okay? None of you have a bigger movie collection than me. Probably true, statistically. But, regardless, today we're looking at a particular film, a film I do own, on 4K. Hannah talks about Blu-rays on the bingo card. Fuck. These people have a particular interpretation of Stanley Kubrick's The Shining, one of the most popular and lauded horror films of all time. So let's take a look.
Down through the years, he had a phrase that he repeated like a personal mantra to hold at bay anyone who pressed him too closely about the meaning of his work or his own intentions. It came from an essay by H.P. Lovecraft, and like Stephen King, a popular manipulator of the occult, in all things that are mysterious.
You think Stephen King is a manipulator of the occult? He's an author. He's an author who did a lot of cocaine and drank a lot of alcohol. But, like, nonetheless, he's just an author.
Never explain, it said.
A very talented author.
The edict applies to Kubrick's own work as well, but also even more to himself. From the book by Walker, Taylor, and Rookde called Stanley Kubrick, Director. Generally considered one of the best horror films of all time, Kubrick's adaptation of the Stephen King story The Shining is not lacking in its interpretive creativity on the part of film critics and analysts. Freudian psychoanalysts combined with esoteric speculation generally garners much of the review space, but in my estimation, The Shining is about something much more obvious and yet obscure at the same time. I believe the film
Is this going to be the moon landing thing?
Adaptation is intended to convey the same message as King's, and that is demonic possession.
So like I said, a lot of people have interpreted this film different ways. Stanley Kubrick tended to not comment too much on, like, the specific, this is what I was trying to do, this is my meaning. He kind of was very specific. He was obsessive about making the movie he wanted to make, and then it was out there. The Shining in particular has been used by people for all sorts of random interpretations. Some people think it is a story that's an allegory about colonialism in the United States and the displacement of natives. Some people think it's about how Stanley Kubrick secretly faked the moon landing. Some people think it's about Jack being secretly homosexual. There are people who think all sorts of things about this movie. There's actually an entire documentary called, like, what is it called? Room 1... Shining documentary... Room 237. Room 237 is a pretty interesting documentary film in that it is a movie that appears at first to just be about the movie The Shining, but as it turns out, the documentary is really about showing you how crazy people can get when trying to dissect a film, right? And that film goes over people who have wildly varying and contradictory beliefs about what the movie really means, right? I'd highly recommend it. Go check out that documentary sometime. If you like my show, you'll like that. And also the same director did another documentary called A Glitch in the Matrix. I'd highly recommend that as well. I'd love to watch that on stream sometime. Again, kind of deals with conspiracy theorists and their thinking and how it can be dangerous. Either way, I don't know where my train of thought was going on this one, but I'm pretty excited for this video. Marcus Drake says, basically every horror artist in every medium agree on 3 things. Lovecraft is amazing, Edgar Allan Poe is amazing but needs therapy, and never say the name of Lovecraft's cat into a live mic. Oof. Discordant Vole says, I mean, L. Ron Hubbard was friends with Jack Parsons, who was a Crowley adherent. Oh, God. Crowley was just an old, horny weirdo. He wasn't evil. It's fine.
It's not merely a presentation of the possession of Jack Torrance, played by Jack Nicholson, but of the spectral haunting of America itself, in terms of its dark past in relationship to Native Americans, and much more. Is there something to the idea of America as an ancient Indian burial ground?
Zozo Horror Show, thanks for 27 months. Oh, is that a third sub-baby? This sub-baby is going to be named Jack Torrance. It's a good one.
This is in the background of Stephen King's novel of horror and possession. And the idea of the Overlook Hotel is that it's built on an ancient Indian burial ground. This becomes, of course, the scene for the terrifying paranormal events that occur in Poltergeist as well as The Shining. But I think that what's interesting is that we're asking a question about spiritual forces. Is there a principle or a power of good and evil that...
No, good and evil are concepts that we create in order to make our lives make sense.
lies at the heart of the foundation of America's own ancient past. And I want to add that if you like this analysis, you can get more of the same in my book, Esoteric Hollywood, Sex, Cults, and Symbols in Film.
That book sounds great.
At jaysanalysis.com. Esoteric Hollywood covers the biggest films and the biggest directors.
Did he have to get the rights to use that image? Because that's an image from Eyes Wide Shut, I think, which is another Kubrick film. It was his last film before he died.
With 404 footnotes and 363 pages. Definitely something that you want to check out. Signed copies are available at jaysanalysis.com at the tab. Note as well that the book has, in its first 9 months, over 100 5-star reviews. And it also led to the creation of my TV show with Jay Widener.
Shilling on the bingo card. Not shilling for gold, but there is another space that's like, hey guys, I'm just here to talk to you about whatever. You know, that one.
Yeah.
But not shilling for gold, because that's a separate thing.
Hollywood Decoded, available at Gaia TV. In the film, as we'll see,
of course
it's
he's selling it on Gaia.
Animistic spiritualism that undergirds the narrative, and it manifests as a form of generational curse upon Jack, as we'll see. Initially, the camera perspective appears to fly in from an aerial vantage point, as if we were viewing the scene from the perspective of a disembodied spirit or a demon. From the camera's angle, we can also see the lake, and the reflection suggests an as above, so below motif, where a lonely islet...
It's reflective, and I understand. Let me be clear. I'm not saying there's an objective reading of The Shining. All art, you can interpret any way you want. I'm very pro death of the author. So, like, you can read any text however you want, and your interpretations are valid as long as you can back them up. But I'm pretty sure this guy is talking about hypothetical authorial intent, which is a different discussion altogether.
In the midst of vast mountains sits, reflecting the isolation of both nature and the isolation that Jack himself seeks as he flees to the Overlook Hotel to escape family life. Signifying isolation, Jack's desire to be rid of his family is thus conveyed by this natural landscape. The mirrors and reflections that we see here are also prominently displayed throughout the movie, and I think the point of this is that just like Alice in Wonderland mirrors connote the spiritual realm or another world or the psyche, we're going to be looking into that spiritual realm and into the psyche throughout this film. Hovering over the mountains, the viewer gradually comes to spot Jack winding towards the ominous Overlook Hotel in Colorado. Built in 1907, the site was chosen for its seclusion and scenic beauty, but there's a darker side of this locale. It seems to draw dark forces into its midst as a kind of spiritual vortex. While the hotel is real, we discover that in Jack's mind it begins to take on an otherworldly portal association. Jack has, in fact, chosen this location purposely for his writing. The story will be his next novel. However, the real story is not the novel, but the gruesome reenactment of a spiritual ritual sacrifice that is required for his imagined entrance into this Hall of Fame of the elite, the abode of the beautiful people and the jet set, as the film says. Arriving at the hotel, Jack and
oh, God, they're gonna do the American fucking flag thing.
His new masters become...
I know I saw someone once say that the pen on Stuart Ullman's desk is phallic, and it's supposed to be an erect penis, metaphorically. Can't say I agree with that. I think it's a pen.
Acquainted, that is, the all-American manager himself, Stuart Ullman, the facilitator of horrors, orgies, and abuse.
I do think the imagery in terms of... How do I put this? Stanley Kubrick is detail-oriented, or was detail-oriented, so I can believe that the American flag there wasn't there for no reason. I don't think a random set dressing person just put it there. I think he specifically asked, have the guy have an American flag on the desk. Now, specifically, what is he saying about the American flag through this, and the fact that the owner has this American flag prominently displayed, and that later the Apollo 13 thing is very prominent with the sweater that Danny wears? I think he's trying to say something. And maybe it is about the native thing. I don't know. That's possible. That's one of the interpretations that I'm like, at least I kind of see where you're coming from on that one. But the pen thing, not all about that one. Kippy says, holy crap, tangent, but oh my god, I'm so grateful you actually succinctly stated and explained what Death of the Author is and how it's not a discussion of authorial intent. It feels like it's been way too long since hearing someone actually use Death of the Author right. How do people normally use it? I don't know.
Use. Yes, the interview scene conveys an overtly Americana facade that clues the viewer into the dual symbolism of the film, where the overlook is both Jack's degenerating psyche and it's a microcosm of the United States. With a friendly, charming veneer, the baby boomer generation has a dark side that is portrayed both figuratively and literally in Jack's brutality at the mystic locale of the overlook.
Occult Comics says best detail of this shot is the awesome impossible window in the background. The window shows the outdoors, but there's a hallway behind the room when you exit with them. It's such a cool detail. The whole Overlook Hotel is actually impossible when you map it out, which was actually done on purpose. Kubrick thought it would be neat.
Overlook. In this scene, America is not baseball and apple pie, and manager Ullman's JFK-esque appearance masks his own potential to actually be a nefarious character. While surrounded by the icons of Americana, we see flags and paintings of Native American artworks that shows the displacement of...
My interpretation of The Shining, by the way, is probably more boring, but like the way I look at it and what I get out of The Shining at least is how abuse and past behavior can haunt families and relationship. It's pretty clear early in the film when we hear about, you know, Danny getting his arm broken by his father and the drinking and stuff, that the dad has an abusive, alcoholic tendencies, and even in moments when he's not that, because he's, you know, at least for a lot of the movie, supposedly a recovered alcoholic or recovering, and, you know, he isn't trying to be abusive and stuff, it still haunts them, and that haunting, the metaphorical haunting, is made literal by the hotel, in that Danny is constantly, you know, besieged by visions of horror. The visions of horror, to me, are like, as a kid, you don't really know why everything feels weird and why things are fucked up and stuff. It's a literal version of that metaphor. And again, I'm not saying this is the intent. This is just what I got out of it. So the haunting is a metaphor for the relationship and family of Jack and his wife and the kid.
Of the previous civilization. It's worth noting, as Rob Ager has shown in his documentaries, that the Playgirl issue that Jack is seen reading, oddly enough, at a hotel, why is a playgirl laying out to be read at a hotel, actually deals with incest in that very issue. This is a big key to interpreting the film, because we learn that, of course, later on, it is Jack who is incestuously abusing his son.
Incestuously? I don't remember there being any implications of sexual abuse in the movie. Certainly physical abuse and like a mental and verbal abuse, but nowhere in the movie is sexual abuse implied.
Danny. Now, it's also important to see that the photos in Ullman's office appear to be the same that will conclude the film. Ullman reveals to Jack that the history of the caretakers involves a...
Again, this is what I'm saying. Movies and all pieces of art are very open to interpretation, but you can't just make shit up. You can interpret things, but just saying there's an incest subplot, no, that doesn't happen in the movie.
Previous mass murder where cabin fever resulted.
Up for adoption has been delivered. Up for adoption. Bruce Wayne. It's a pretty good Bruce Wayne. I like that. Oh. Sorry, where were we?
Resulted in an instance of madness and violent outbursts. Danny, we start to learn, has a special talent by which he can actually presage the future, identified in the film's title, The Shining. Critics Walker, Taylor, and Rookde explain, highlighting my point about animism and Native American traditions as follows. Carruthers, played by Dick Halloran, is a great casting success. His talent for Shining springs from the animism associated with black culture. But
what? What?
Carruthers' features, ancient and
that just feels racist,
weathered like the Easter Island monument, also lend more gravitas. He's the hero, although he is a sacrificial hero. Jack explains to Ullman that his wife, Wendy, played by...
In what way does he think that quote-unquote black culture is associated with animism? What the fuck?
By Shelley Duvall is...
This is weird.
It's a confirmed ghost story and horror film fanatic. As we see from the imagery in the Torrance apartment, Wendy actually shares an interest in the occult. This includes numerous books on witchcraft, as well as the notorious Catcher in the Rye book associated with several MK Ultra assassins. Because
Betty means voodoo? Maybe, but that's weird because voodoo isn't quote-unquote black culture. It's a very specific cultural subset from specific regions that have specific, like, socio-cultural reasons for existing. It's not like everyone who's black is into voodoo. Like, what the fuck?
Jack has come to despise his family. He thinks that they are a stumbling block to his supposed greatness, and thus the dark depths of his subconscious will suggest, through the whispers of the demonic, that he could write a real horror story for Wendy and Danny. Following his father's job interview, Danny experiences a supernatural premonition, a seizure, and dissociating blackout, sensing intuitively that the trauma they are destined to undergo in the Overlook Hotel is soon to come. We begin to suspect that Danny has been abused, possibly sexually, as his alternate persona.
There's no implication or indication of sexual abuse in the movie. In the text, it is expressly said that he is physically abused by Jack. Now, I guess you should say the wife says that it was a mistake, but you can assume that even if it was a mistake, it was still abusive in the sense that he was being negligent with his child and handling him very roughly. But there is no, if you've never seen The Shining, there are zero implications of sexual abuse. Physical abuse, yes. Sexual abuse, no.
Based around trauma-based mind control, named Tony, lives in Danny's mouth and stomach, we're told. In my opinion, the usage of the inverted stars here on Danny's shirt intensifies.
In the book, doesn't it turn out that Tony is Danny from the future contacting his past self to try and warn him? It's not in the miniseries either. Yeah.
The reality of the demonic.
The miniseries does have the Tony is future Danny thing, which is where I'm getting it. I've never read the book The Shining, but I know the miniseries Stephen King directed because he wanted to make a more book accurate version, but that version sucked.
It was used intentionally because we later discovered that Jack has in fact physically and sexually assaulted Danny.
There is no! Physically, yes. Sexually, no.
Danny, resulting in his traumatic break and the mental creation of the multiple Tony. Interestingly, in accounts of indigenous religions and spiritual possessions, There are instances of spirits inhabiting certain areas and regions of the body in just this way. Indeed, as film analyst Rob Ager has correctly elucidated, the abuse appears to be generational, and intergenerational conflict shows in this way Freudian Oedipal envy, that is, Jack resents Danny, and will occupy much of this story. Ager is also correct in his insights concerning the cartoon programming that Danny has apparently received, as Jack will become the big bad wolf at the end, utilizing the Disney and nursery rhyme mantras during his psychosis. This is also why cartoons and cartoon characters are consistently displayed throughout the film, as you see here on the door. Numerous references are made to fairy tales such as Hansel and Gretel, as well as the classical works of mythology in regard to Theseus and the Labyrinth's Minotaur.
I'm pretty sure those are brought up because Danny uses his sweater string in order to get out of the maze or something at some point, doesn't he? Like when he's being chased by his dad, or isn't there a part in the movie where he uses a thread from his sweater to kind of make a trail or something? Because that would be why there are allusions to like Hansel and Gretel or the Labyrinth, because those stories both involve either leaving a trail of breadcrumbs or a trail. What is the Labyrinth story? Isn't there like a ball of like magical fucking string or something? Yeah. Adia Blue says, as a plural person, I'm not liking the tone this guy uses when talking about multiples. He steps backwards in his own footprints. Sorry. Oh, yeah, in the book he uses it. In the book he uses the string. I'm conflating the mini-series and the Kubrick film now in my head. Whoopsie.
Fairy tales and mythical references are thus profuse. Ager is also perceptive to connect the old hag in the bathtub, as we see later in the film, to the classic notions of the seductive sea nymph or the siren who transforms into a hag, causing sailors to then crash upon the rocks to their despair and demise. This omen will appear and apply to Jack as he progresses down his path of possession. Looking over the books visible in Wendy's living room, we can see an interest in witchcraft in the books titled The Magic Circle and Mother Goddess. As the counselor learns that Jack dislocated Danny's shoulder in a drunken rage, we begin to
physical abuse.
Wonder, is it maybe
in the text
be Jack who is the witch? Wendy, however, is partly to blame in all this for her naivety and enabling and overlooking the trauma that Jack has caused against Danny and against her better judgment. She tries to convince herself that Jack has changed and believes in his empty promise. Recall as well that the magic circle appeared in Kubrick's film Eyes Wide Shut that we highlighted in my other documentary video.
I would watch that video, but I've never seen Eyes Wide Shut, so I don't have thoughts on it. And I don't know what happens in the movie. Occult Comics says, okay, so what he's referencing here is this scene. The idea that this implies sexual assault is insane. We'll look at the clip in a sec. Because this is actually the scene where the last good part of Jack is shown. This is the actual Jack trying to comfort his son. Not his addictions, not the ghosts, not the monster. It's like the last good bit of him, and it dies soon after. It's one of my favorite scenes. This man is horrible, and is probably thinking. I'll try and skim through just because I can't do, a ton. Oh, this thing. Yeah, there's no implications of sexual abuse.
We could stay here. What do you mean?
That's just him being creepy and being a dad.
It appears that Danny has arranged also, as we saw.
Occult Comics says that's what he's using. I've seen people make the claim before. It's stupid and equates physical affection from a father to sexual abuse, which fucking sucks. Hunks from my dad have actually repaired so much of my relationship with him. Oh, that's nice.
Previously, the cartoon stickers in his room in a kind of magic ritual circle.
It's literally just fucking stickers, man.
Concerning the Minotaur and the film's art direction, critics Walker Taylor and Rookdy note, Kubrick often positions Nicholson visually against extremely formal backgrounds. One image frames him in the abstract design of a wall tapestry, a Native American motif. It also resembles a printed circuit, It calls to mind the rigor of programmed information. No deviation is allowed. In another shot, Torrance looms above a model of the garden maze. This maze clearly alludes to the Minotaur myth, in which a monster with the head of a bull and the body of a man was kept in a labyrinth and fed on human flesh.
I mean, more literally, it has the implications of foreshadowing the end of the film where he's chasing Danny through the maze. And I would agree that that is an allusion to sort of a Minotaur labyrinth, you know, story. I agree that there's that connection because that's the classical story of, you know, being trapped in a maze. But what of it?
Cannibalism, until the hero, Theseus, killed it. It was a legend that had long appealed to Kubrick, the company that made Killer's Kiss 25 years ago before was called Minotaur Productions. In his film, environment is destiny and not its instrument. As the now evidently dysfunctional family journeys to their nightmare abode, Jack posits a macabre topic for discussion: the reality of cannibalism as a drive that is necessary for survival, as he sneers at Danny's awareness of what he saw on television. Jack displays his psychopathic, parasitic side in a glimpse, a premonition of what horrors await. Here, as is crucial to note, and as Ager has shown in his analysis, Jack apparently has homosexual proclivities despite his exterior masculine framework.
I've never understood I've heard this theory before too, and I don't understand the thought behind it at all.
Apparently playing a fatherly role. But as he tours the hotel, and as Ullman reveals the secret of the Outlook, we learn that it was formerly a getaway for the moneyed elites, for the Hollywood jet set and royalty, all the best people, we're told. Kubrick's dour view of the American aristocracy and the middle class is reflected in their offspring, represented in the film by both Jack and the younger generation in Danny. The hotel.
You think that Jack and Danny are offspring of the aristocracy? They're broke. Like, pretty explicitly, they're fucked. Like, what are you talking about?
The hotel is not merely a site for elite orgies or lascivious dalliances, but a representative sacrificial site where the dead are fed upon and feed upon parasitically the fear in living organisms. This theme will also appear in my analysis of Twin Peaks. We also learn in this scene...
Oh my god, he's gonna do an analysis of Twin Peaks? Oh, my head hurts already.
Interestingly, that the Monarch mind control program, which was a real program, is subtly referenced...
Oh, here's the fucking poster thing. I've heard this one before, too.
In the film, behind the two twins that represent Gemini. Notice also behind the two twins there appears to be some sort of poster that looks like it has a minotaur or bull horns on.
Yeah, the hotel is themed after sort of Western stuff, so there are a lot of things on the wall that have like cowboys or like indigenous motifs or like cow skulls. Yes.
Display. Now, with this Monarch program being referenced, I think that it's fascinating that Kubrick was apparently aware of MK Ultra mind control.
There's no implication that he did. It's a poster for skiing at a ski lodge. It's a ski poster at a ski lodge.
And it's experiments done on children. These experiments are actually detailed in certain MK Ultra doctors' books, like Programming and Metaprogramming the Human Biocomputer, as well as Kubrick documenting it in his film A Clockwork Orange.
Oh my god. Oh, I like A Clockwork Orange. Do we have to talk about it? Let's not.
Which involves operant conditioning through Pavlovian means and methods, as well as drug administration to socially engineer the public. Timidly touring the hotel, Wendy anxiously refers to it as a maze, like the hotel's garden, sprinkling her dialogue with references to cartoon characters and nursery rhymes. Danny is spoken of as lost, signifying both a literal and a figurative sense, looking for his parents. He has been abandoned. His parents...
Have you ever trapped in a maze, by the way? Put your hand on the right wall and just follow it. Just follow it. You'll get to the end eventually. Unless you wind up in a section that's just a circle. But don't do that. You have to put your hand on the wall as soon as you get into the maze, okay? There you go, you win. Scorn Full says, oh, that is full of magical stuff. David Lynch was fascinated by the occult.
Of course, fixate on the landscape, leaving him forgotten in the, quote, game room. Jack rhetorically comments on Danny's playfulness. Do you
guys know that every Friday David Lynch wishes you a happy Friday? Hold on. Like, every day. I don't know if he still does, but for like a year, he did this every Friday. If you can believe it!
Good morning. It's December 16, 2022, and if you can believe it, it's a Friday once again. Here in LA, a cloudy morning. Quite a breeze blowing right now. 50 degrees Fahrenheit, 10 Celsius. Today I was thinking about the song The World Spins. And I believe it was mine and Angelo and Julie's favorite song we did together.
Oh, David Lynch.
Tired of bombing the universe, Danny? Signifying Danny's representation of
That the director, David Lynch, it is indeed
full American aggression in terms of his generation. The great Enlightenment experiment that sits upon the giant Indian burial ground, the United States, is also being signified here, I think, and Kubrick was very much a critic of Americanism, especially its foreign policy, as we can see in films like Dr. Strangelove, where the absurdity of mutually assured Cold War destruction...
What movies did David Lynch direct? Twin Peaks is a show, but he did that, and he did the movie Firewalk with Me. He did Eraserhead. He's done a lot of very surreal...
And the Rand Corporation are lampooned. The Cold War Great Game was truly a game room of the theater of war, making Kubrick's critique of Western...
Gentlemen, you can't fight in here. This is the war room.
...imperialism here appropriate. Danny, we recall, had seen a vision of the murdered twin.
How many of Lynch's movies do I own? I might own 0. I don't even think I own Eraserhead. Let me see. I own Dune. I own the 1984 version of Dune, actually. But other than that... Oh, I also own The Elephant Man. So 2. I own 2 David Lynch movies.
In the game room, while behind him on the scene is a poster that reads Monarch. Given Danny's representation of both traumatized youth and naive America, Monarch can also be applied to the nation en masse, since, as I propose, the MK-Ultra abominations were really about mass mind control and not primarily about programmed assassins. Kubrick is thus gradually revealing Danny's abuse, trauma, and mind control at the hand of his father, Jack. The Minotaur has a significance in terms of human sacrifice, which is a dark side of the film, as we'll see, in relation to the myth of Theseus. Originally a human sacrifice tale, according to scholar Nigel Davies on the history of this practice, he writes, perhaps the most famous concerns Theseus and the Minotaur. Theseus was already a hero of many tales, including the killing of Procrustes, another slayer of men. Athens paid an annual tribute of 7 youths and 7 maidens to Minos, king of Crete. These he shut up in the labyrinth, where they either lost their way and died of hunger, or were eaten by the Minotaur, half man, half bull. In 1998, the CBC did an important investigation into the history of Project MK-Ultra.
Idiot Blue says Dune, Desert Planet, The Second Moon, The Tooth, I Am the Housekeeper, Tell Me About Your Home World, Ursel, The Sleeper Has Awakened. I'm assuming these are all lines from Dune. I've still not seen Dune. I own it, but I've not seen it.
Specifically, the Mind Control Institute in Canada.
Even if you don't know the history of the Allen Memorial Institute in Montreal, it looks like a natural...
Doodle Stargazer says, I don't know what's worse, the crazy or the monotone voice of this narrator. And Discordant Vol says, yeah, it was called advertising. The sales division of a corporate office is the center of mind control conspiracies.
...setting for a movie. A horror movie, maybe. But then, the truth about what happened to hundreds of psychiatric patients there a long time ago is a horror story.
Okay, so we're en route, guys. A piece of Leon.
And now, it has become a movie. A dramatized account of a bleak chapter in the history of Canadian psychiatry, produced by a former Fifth Estate documentary maker, Bernard Zuckerman.
Do I own Dr. Strangelove? Yes.
Not make change for $1. The central character in the TV movie is a world-renowned psychiatrist at the Allen...
It's the Criterion one.
...the early 60s. His name was Dr. Ewan Cameron.
Dr. Cameron.
It's the classic story...
You prefer Asterius the Minotaur? I feel like that's a joke I'm not getting.
...of good turning to evil in its most simplistic terms. I mean, Dr. Cameron started off as someone who was probably one of the most enlightened psychiatrists in the country. But then something happened. And whatever happened, suddenly here is this enlightened doctor, this noble doctor, who begins doing more and more and more bizarre experiments on his patients to the point where he is destroying the minds of hundreds of people.
These are the days, and ours are the occasions.
Inspired by the exuberant post-war optimism in technology, Cameron thought he'd achieved a major scientific breakthrough: how to repair a damaged human mind.
This is about the guy that figured out the ice pick lobotomies. That guy fucking sucks.
Media rejoiced, even coined a phrase which would become a tragically silly oxymoron: beneficial brainwashing. Linda MacDonald was a young mother with 5 children under the age of 5 when she started feeling low. Her family doctor knew just the man to make her better.
I was tired, I was depressed, my back was hurting. And so he said to the children's father, why don't you go to Montreal and visit this Dr. Ewan Cameron, this famous man who has all of these accolades, and have an assessment. So we went. My medical file even says that I took my guitar with me. And that was the end of my life. Within 3 weeks, Dr. Cameron decided to call me an acute schizophrenic and ship me up to the sleep room.
How long did they put you to sleep for?
I was in a coma for 86 days.
86 days of unbroken sleep.
Yeah. Total comatose state.
The theory was simple: erase a disturbed mind and start all over again. One of Dr. Cameron's colleagues at the time was Dr. Peter Roper.
The aim, I think, really was to wipe out the patterns of thought and behavior which were detrimental to the patient, which were sick, and replace them with healthy patterns of thought and behavior. I think this may have been stimulated by the effects of the American prisoners of war in Korea, how they seem to have been brainwashed.
The movie, called The Sleep Room, dramatizes one technique for brainwashing: extreme sessions of electroshock therapy, massive jolts of electricity 3 or 4 times a day for weeks. According to her hospital records, Linda MacDonald had 100 of these treatments. She entered hospital for treatment of what we can now guess was postpartum depression. Her records show the results of shock and radical drug therapy. May 15th shows some confusion. June 3rd knows her name, but that's about all. June 11th doesn't know her name.
I had to be toilet trained. I was a vegetable. I had no identity, I had no memory, I'd never existed in the world before. Like a baby. Just like a baby that has to be toilet trained.
She eventually went home, her depression gone, and her entire previous life gone with it.
And this is one of the twins. That was in '62 before I went to the Allen. And this is the same one, I think. I just look at the pictures and I know who that is, who they are, but I don't remember them as my children at all.
That's fucked up. Doesn't have anything to do with The Shining, but it's fucked up.
Monarch is thus also connected with the various mind control programs of the CIA. Indeed, it's one of the programs.
You watched One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest as a child? That is not a movie for children. Jesus Christ. Did you guys see the fucking Ryan Murphy Nurse Ratched series? Missed the point entirely with that one. The entire point of Nurse Ratched is kind of a story about the banality of evil. But then Ryan Murphy made a recent prequel to One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest starring Nurse Ratched, which is just like, no, she's just evil. She's a full-on evil fucking psycho person. And that's why they got treated badly, not because of systemic issues in mental health care, not because anyone can, like, you know, get into a system where they stop seeing other people as people, but it's because she's evil. Fucking hell.
It seeks the creation directly of alternate personas. And
like, I would say she is evil in the human sense, but he made her a boogeyman, and the point is not supposed to be Nurse Ratched is abnormally evil. The point is that she's just doing her job, and the system that she works within has made her completely numb to the suffering of others that are under her. That is the point. That anyone could become that.
Is often mentioned under the umbrella term of MKUltra. This includes projects Bluebird, Artichoke, and Naomi. These are centered on mass mind control and whispers of creating dissociative states and altered consciousness through LSD, torture, and traumatization. The films...
A better show would be to show her slow decline in humanity? Yeah, that'd be fine.
Certainly uses this narrative, as well as Kubrick in Clockwork Orange, as we said. And here we have reference to Jack's abuse of Danny and the alter spirit being created as a result of the trauma Tony. The game room reference to Monarch and the frequent use of mazes and labyrinths throughout the film signifies compartmentalizations of the psyche. This is the meaning of room 237, where traumas are stored and released in the hotel itself. Jack's exhaustion and sleep state are accompanied by images of butterflies, signifying, I think, his transformation, as you see here. We also see mirrors. Mirrors represent the subconscious, the psyche, or the inner world that is reflected in our minds from the outer world, as well as signifying the spiritual realm or some other location, such as Alice in Through the Looking Glass, which closely parallels our own world, where much of the Shining is taking place. In this scene, it is Jack once again hinting that he is writing a ghostly horror that is not the book, but his own reality. In fact, this is evident in numerous scenes where Jack is shown in a mirror or a fade scene. The maze itself is interesting for its dual usage. It symbolizes both Jack's psyche and his writing of the fiction into reality. And thus the viewer begins to discover that the principle of simulacrum is at work here, where the modeled things become real in preparatory phases for later fulfillment.
Marcus Drake says, speaking of children, I love horror today because my sister, who's 24 years older than me, liked horror and watched it while babysitting me, so she had someone to grab onto when she got scared. I saw The Omen, Jeepers Creepers, Poltergeist, and many others by 9 years old.
I highlight this in many of my Spielberg essays, specifically in regard to Close Encounters of the Third Kind and E.T., where directors function like shamans or a magus.
What?
For signifying events to come through models earlier in the film. Through
you mean
symbolic
foreshadowing?
Objects like toys, operating like a voodoo doll in a way in Close Encounters, for example, or in E.T. or AI. Such objects later appear in the film, and thus are a kind of fulfillment. Roy's Mashed Potatoes and television programs such as the Ten Commandments, where Moses receives the law on Mount Sinai like Devil's Mountain in the film, portend future events. Like Devil's Mountain in Close Encounters, the Overlook Hotel is situated on a, quote, high place where the spirits of the dead meet with man and demand an exchange. The models in Roy's house also in Close Encounters become real later as the government stages a staged outbreak during a train sequence. I propose that this is not merely a plot device or a choice of nostalgic imagery, but instead an attempt to script reality by writing one's own Twilight language, just like Jack. Twilight language is a form of angelic script that integrates synchronistic events in a kind of semiotic text to be read, while other directors like King, Kubrick, and Steven Spielberg are operating in the role of the Magus to produce...
It's foreshadowing. There's a word for it. It's called foreshadowing. In stories, you foreshadow things that are going to happen. There are setups and there are payoffs, and there's sometimes foreshadowing. It's fine.
Dramaturgical ritual that communicates with the subconscious. This is also why mazes and labyrinths have historically been associated with the underworld and the psyche or the subconscious, as we will see in both Henson Lucas's production of Labyrinth, as in many other films that we delve into, including Eyes Wide Shut. In the process of individuation, Jungian scholar M.L. von Franz explains the meaning of the labyrinth as the subconscious. Quote,
fucking Jungians.
The maze of strange passages, chambers...
Are we sure it's not demonic? I'm pretty sure.
...and unlocked secrets and exits in the cellar recall the old Egyptian representation of the underworld in a way that resembles a mandala. Apart from a diamond-shaped...
I'm gonna start skipping through, because we're only like halfway through.
...center, unconnected with the other parts, the whole is designed to form a single, never-ending line. These are only a few examples of the pure art that has developed in the Malakulan tribe out of the labyrinth motif, combined with that derived from the outline of the human form itself, or the anthropocosmic principle. The
Anthropocosmic.
Symbols, I should note, are Gemini. The novel is really about the distance to the moon. I think 237, at the beginning of the location of the number of the twins, is supposed to be foreshadowed in the murder of another child, Danny, who wears a shirt number 42. That is 2 times 3 times 7 equals 42. This is also why the film that Wendy and Danny are watching is the 1971 film Summer of 42, which is a reverse Lolita-style tale of an older woman seducing a younger boy. The second reference to pedophilia in Danny's number 42 shirt clues us into that. Note that Kubrick also directed Lolita. News reports forecast the coming snowstorm, and we see Jack fall deeper into his trance states, and demonic glares as Wendy and Danny begin to feel the drag of cabin fever. Danny's shining kicks in, that is his premonition and sixth sense powers, and he begins to see more terrifying images as Tony tells him it's just like the pictures in the book, it isn't real. Highlighting the surrealist dream state and aspects of this film, Walker, Taylor, and Ruchti again comment, The Shining was also a perfect closed set.
Let's see what he says about the bears thing.
Tones. Only hint process supposed to later be used by but were the trigger word for Torrance's programmed psychosis. And note as well the similarity between the Eyes Wide Shut ball here on the left as we pan over into the gold ball, the gold room, the alchemical process, supposedly, at least in the dark sense of what Jack's psyche is becoming. As the horrifying scenes approach the climax, and with Dick being murdered and the family on the run, I'm reminded of the elements of storytelling that would later be used by directors like Lynch or Linklater, where the surrealist dream state blends seamlessly with the waking state to create an inchoate, mystical formlessness to reality as merely an external projection of the inner psyche, supposedly. Carl Jung, as well as many in the Hermetic traditions, have proposed this view where ultimately the realization of man's own inner divinity is premised on a kind of waking state, moving towards an enlightenment.
Okay, I'm done with this guy and his fucking dumb takes. Here's a trailer for that Room 237 thing I was talking about, though, that's pretty interesting. About people with crazy Shining theories. Marcus Drake, thanks for 170 bits. I'll click on your link after this. show any imagery, or doesn't show, rather, footage from the... Well, go watch the movie. Maybe it's on Netflix. It's good. Elon Musk is such a deeply terrible person. Even as a kid, when another kid hospitalized him, his dad was like, fair enough, the kid almost killing my son had a point. Elon responded, I think you're stupid, said Errol. That's typically Elon, said the father. He also recalled a time when Elon made a hurtful comment to a schoolmate about his father's suicide. The boy pushed Elon down a staircase at school, injuring him so badly he had to be hospitalized. When he heard what had happened, Errol wanted to defend his son. Quote, but I realized Elon overstepped the mark with this little boy. I had to drop it, he said. I think Elon didn't get beat up enough, probably, as a kid.
Well, happy Friday, everyone. It's me, Deplorable McAllister, a.k.a. Linda Paris. And here's my snarky website right here at McAllisterTVOnline.com, where all my videos are uploaded. And no matter what happens in any one platform, you will always be able to come here and see my videos at McAllisterTVOnline.com. Now, I also want to shout out to everyone who supports my channel. You people are just unfreaking believable. And without you guys, I could not do this because they're all working against us. Oh.
Discordant Vol says, Elon, we need to cover the concept of fighting words.
They're all working against us. And we don't have a chance in this world unless there's the libtards around. We're the victims of the Democrats. Anyway, you know, it really does. It drags you down to think about it. So let's not talk about it. Let's just talk about how amazing you are. And thank you. And also the people who shop here. I shop here. I took a bath bomb last night, threw it in the bathtub and got in and said, hasta la vista, baby. I'm going on a trip. Calgon, take me away. Anyway, those things are amazing.
What is this, QAnon QAnon VC?
Get them right here at snarkycbd.com. And I also use these products. One of my favorite is this mental focus thing. And you can find it on here. I'm not going to look for it. It's mental focus. Dark to light, mental focus. This stuff is good. It's got B vitamins in it. And I swear within 20 or 30 minutes after I take it, I can feel it perking me up. So I highly suggest you check out these products.
I bet you do.
You too can help this channel out by checking out
It's almost
these
like it makes you
products.
money. Crazy.
Now, onward and upward. There's so much to say. So much to say. And it feels like it's an obstacle course of sorts, like people are trying to, or somebody's trying to get us to drop the ball and say, just forget about it. But that's not going to happen. So lots going on. So my cable went out on Tuesday night, and the cable company still hasn't come out here, okay? I fixed the cable. This is my amazing story. Because something amazing happened.
CBD is a cure on bingo? Sure.
Several things. First of all, I fixed it. Can you believe it? And I started to study.
Was it unplugged?
Studying it. I called them, the cable company, on Tuesday when it went out, right, like around dinner time or something. Like, I don't have any internet. I'm like, holy moly. So I called them. They said there was no outage. And I started looking. I keep my router behind the china cabinet. I don't really like it out in the open. It fits right back there. So I read around and checked. And everything was black, nothing was on, and I started thinking, I wonder if it's an electrical issue. To make a long story...
Did you fucking unplug it and plug it back in? Is that the story? Because that's not a story. Mr. Whiskers says, did she shotgun the cable box with a fat CBD hit?
Short, I had to troubleshoot the entire house. I actually worked with electricity. It's kind of scary.
I also work with electricity in the sense that I use it.
Scary, but I did it. And I fixed it. I figured out it was a breaker issue.
Oh my fucking god, literally your breaker was blown, so it wasn't even the cable. It just wasn't getting power. You called the cable company before you checked if your breaker was fucking triggered? Goddamn, people are stupid.
Breakers are not...
Second sub baby delivered. Let's take a look. Jack Torrance. Ooh. That's really good, honestly. You threw that together fucking quick. That's good. That's really good. You could probably throw that on a t-shirt, honestly. People would probably buy that. Just letting you know. Maybe do a t-shirt. Where was it? Where is this lady?
Labeled. Well, they're labeled, but there was no label for this. And nothing to give me a clue. And the things that were labeled, I assumed were labeled accurately. In any event, I started switching them off and on in some kind of order of importance to where I wasn't switching off and on the water heater and things. And I was almost at the end, and I thought, well, the washer's right here. I'm not using it. It said washer. And I flipped it, and some lights came on. And I thought, oh, I wonder if my router came on. This took me all day Wednesday. What's today? Today's Friday.
This is such a fucking old person story. It goes nowhere, and they're impressed by something that isn't impressive at all.
Yeah, this took me all day Wednesday, and it went interesting stuff about the Bogdanov brothers. And when we were talking about the Bogdanov brothers, that's when we had the most problems. Hold on, let me change this graphic here. Here we go. Christian was blown away by this when I showed it to him. I said, look what I found in the Q Mega Meme folder.
Look what I found in the Q Mega Meme folder. He was blown away by this fucking image macro. Harold Elwoman, thanks for 19 months, says 19 months. No words.
So this came from the military, I believe.
The military made this meme! I think there's a watermark that says the free thought something in kind of the middle right. You can kind of see it where I'm pointing. So that's probably who made it. Not the military.
I believe that was a military server, folder on a server that was set up by the military. And I'll even go so far as to say I've speculated that the first underground facility they took over was New Zealand.
Mr. Whisker says, chat after 2 hours of tinfoil.
Survival diary update. I have been drinking dewdrops found on the
Carnio1, thanks for 17 months. And Logarth says, so calm Eddie. And we're on a hype train. Let's see if this one goes higher. Last time I think we only got level 1.
Forest leaves, and I have been eating mushrooms and moss. Mostly mushrooms. My rabies has taken a turn for the worst. I am starting to hallucinate. When I close my eyes, I can see strange characters running around chasing colorful geometric shapes in a dark and infinite limbo.
I remember this episode. He accidentally took mushrooms and got high.
I have stopped closing my eyes. I fear I am going mad.
And
78% to level 1 on the hype train.
The mega meme. It's mega. That's what.
The mega meme! It's mega! And it's memes! Metal Turtle with 400 bits says, "Hi, you're awesome, Hannah. Thank you. You're awesome."
What it is from New Zealand. So it's a mega server. Lots of people use it, businesses and stuff, but it's located in New Zealand. And when I looked up the address, it was not far from the military base there, where the...
Mr. Whiskers, thanks for gifting 2 tier 1 subs. It's not in the military base, but it's near it. That's how you know they're military memes.
Mega address was. So anyway, I got this from the mega meme folder. At the time, it really didn't mean anything to me that much, and I was looking for memes to make us all feel better, because there's a whole bunch of them in there that say you're not crazy. The more you learn...
Guys, I can't be crazy. This folder of memes made by the military says I'm very sane. Discordant Vol says the Shire is a great place for a server.
Learn, the crazier you're gonna sound. And so I was looking for those. And this one says the more you research, the crazier...
Guys, this meme confirmed my bias so fucking hard, it means I'm not crazy.
You sound to ignorant people. But look what he's doing. And what does a teacher hold? They...
A bachelor's degree? What do you mean, what do teachers hold?
Hold those pointers, and they point at a blackboard.
A fucking blackboard? What year do you think this is? I haven't been in school in a decade, and I don't think I've seen a blackboard in a school since 1999 or 2000. Lady, we've been using whiteboards for a long fucking time. What the fuck?
In this case, you could see what's happening.
She's talking about a mega folder of memes, as in a folder on the website Mega in New Zealand. Like the website that you can download. I assume a lot of people put a lot of things on there. I've downloaded ROMs from there before, I think. They were military ROMs, though. So that's how I can play Super Mario Bros. 3 on my phone.
Happening there. It's a
Don't tell Nintendo.
Plasma screen, just like Christian says. And it says, more you research, sound crazy. That's how it's described, .jpg. So I want to talk about this right off the top.
64% to level 2 on the hype train.
Our interview, because I have yet to even take it out. I've been too busy fooling with routers and what do you call those things again? Breakers. That's what they're called. I had to remember what even they're called. So yeah, I worked on the problem. That's another thing I wanted to say about this. This would have been the kind of thing that before I recognized that
Corner and Vol, thanks for gifting 5 tier 1 subs.
There are 2 parts to my personality. The one they...
Marcus Drake with 180 bits says, more bits? Also, you missed my previous bits message. Sorry. Marcus Drake said... Whenever I can find it. If people don't know, the Bogdanov twins were hyper plastic surgery addicted weird French scientist anti-vaxxers. They died of COVID. Oh! I'm familiar with them! I think I watched a YouTube video about them. 97% to level 3.
He made the ego shadow boy, who's immature and aggressive. That's why I call him Shadow Boy. And then there's me, the real me, in there. So Shadow Boy usually takes over when things...
Plastic surgery addicted? Yeah, hold on. Bogdanov twins. This is them. This was them, I guess I should say, if they're dead now. Yeah. I hate Twitch times 2 with a link. Is this a video of them? No, is this a completely unrelated thing? No, this is... Okay. Wasn't it a meme that they were like the CEOs of the stock market or something as a joke? 1% to level 4 on the hype train.
Yes. Il bort. Don't beat.
Things start to roll out of control. Because another thing that happened was the package came back, the bubble machine. Well, you just don't know how much I went through to get that bubble machine mailed. It's big, and it comes back. So now I have to haul it up there. So anyway, we talked about the Bogdanov brothers. Very, very interesting. And that's when we had the most interference. So I think I'm going to put that part together first. I'm going to go right to that. And we talked about two minds, people having two minds.
Sure, word salad. Mr. Whiskers with 200 bits, thank you. And 10% to level 4.
People who shift can save someone who has two minds, who's on the fence. I know some people, but I don't really know who or how or what, and I was trying to get these answers from him, but he's like a stream of consciousness is what you call it. It's hard because even when he's trying to answer the question, he still has this stream of consciousness that takes him off in other directions. So I was trying to ask about this saving someone thing, but I couldn't quite get it. We'll go over it next time. He talked about Omicron reptilians.
Omicron?
Who are over draconians. He talked about all the castles are reptilians.
Evil Dead guy. What do you want me to wear for the hats off? 10% to level 4.
There's just something dark about these.
Add cat ears. You guys are just always going to pick the cat ears now, aren't you? I had therapy today for the first time since the subathon, and I didn't have to. But I explained it to my therapist, and my therapist saw the cat ears. Not on me. Because I'm not fucking crazy. But... I should explain, I do telehealth. I did not bring these to a therapist office. I was sitting here for my therapy.
Castles to me right now. In all their opulence, they look dirty and dark and dank. And a lot of times they try to say that the people who live there, they're so crazy because the mold that grows in these castles is, driving them crazy.
The fuck is she talking about? Metal Turtle with 200 bits says, meow meow cat ears. You fucking people. 19% to level 4 with 30 seconds left.
With their brains and everything. So we talked about a lot of that. And we talked about the flash of light. And so I wanted to clarify this event, right? So I'm just going to talk about it right now while this meme is up. And explain to you how I perceived what he was telling me about this event. Because
Discordant Volo with 100 bits says, the cat ears are going to be your therapist's barometer for your mood. Cat ears in frame, but not on head. Fine. Wearing cat ears. Trouble. Thanks for the level 3 hype, everyone.
If you're like me...
No, this isn't Gina. This is a new lady.
A lot of people are like me. You want to know what's going to happen when this flash event, you want to know what's going to happen what will be my first sign that this thing is going down? And then what do I expect? You know, like, I want to know. And I'll tell you what I got from him. He kept drifting off into, I had to keep dragging him back to it. But we'll see if I got this right or wrong. And this is important, you guys, that we understand what's going to happen. And fellow human, I just got your notification about the coffee and your question about the whole
get a pink yawn. I have a like a cowgirl hat, kind of. It's just like this though. It's not pink. But
who's going to make it and who's not going to make it? The way I'm looking at it, and it's a kind of living, breathing thing that I'm learning. But I feel like as long as you accept the ET presence and the presence of good and evil in ET form, in the ET world, and you're making an effort, granted, a lot of this has been hidden from us. Go into this. We're going to watch. Some light forms are going to stay. That'll be us. Hi, how you doing? We'll be up there. And we won't have any pain. We'll feel good. It'll be fun. We'll be up there. And we'll be light forms. And we won't see our arms and we won't see our legs. But somehow we're going to be able to recognize each other. I'll have to ask him more about that too again, because I didn't get to that part. But that I thought was super interesting, that we will be in light form. We won't see our arms. And every time he talks about it, he does this thing where he waves his arms and he's kicking his legs, like he's done this before. He's been in this.
He thinks we're going to be light beings in space?
Before, whether it's he was dreaming about it or shown it or whatever. It seems like he experienced it. I have to ask him about that. It's hard. It's hard, though. So that's that, you know, except for the fact that for those of us that stay, there's going to be this amazing food supply. Fruits, you know, all the sugar and all the crap is going to be gone. But if you have fruits as they're supposed to be, there's...
Ma'am, you can have fruit today. We sell fruit. Fruit is allowed.
So sweet and juicy and delicious. You won't even miss any of that stuff that comes in boxes and bags and covered in plastic, and God only knows.
I would like mac and cheese instead of an apple, please.
Is what's growing inside of there. Some of the airport food just looks like it's
fucking airport food? What are you talking about? You think people regularly eat airport food? Most of it's just fast food anyway, but like it's quick and dirty meals for when you're trying to catch a flight. It's not supposed to be gourmet dining.
Growing a disease right in there. So, you know, they're doing that. They're doing anything and everything they can think of, and certainly they think of a lot more than I do just sitting here now. We're going to have fruits grown the way they're supposed to be grown. And
in human shit?
And rich with vitamins and minerals and juicy, sweet. We won't need sugar. And other...
You know there's sugar in fruit, right? Like, refined sugar is not the only sugar. There is sugar in fruit. It's not added sugar, but it's sugar.
Vegetables that will be filling, you know, and I don't think there's going to be any meat. So, but here's what's going to happen. There's going to be an aftercare.
Aftercare, you say?
Care.
That's important.
We will be given 2 years of recuperation, learning, growth, learning about the environment around us, activating our DNA strands, learning what we can do, practicing, learning how to eat, this new way to eat, and all of this other stuff. Now, like I say, I tried to get as much out of him. And I think that he is not exactly sure, but because he keeps going over it, but the 3-day blackout and 10 days of darkness and all of that, just put all that out of your mind. Know it's happening, and when it's happening, at some point there's going to be a light flash. And I don't think we're going to be scared or anything. I think it actually is going to feel good.
I think us being ripped from our corporeal forms and turned into light beings is gonna feel awesome.
To be honest with you. That's why I'm talking about it now, because you can enjoy it more, maybe, by talking about it. But to watch all those other life forms go off into a vortex while we stay, I think that's real important to understand what's happening. You know, if this is truly, and this sounds like exactly, because Alex Collier talks about light forms and what we look like, and that we're balls of energy and knowledge. That's what we are. And we're going to be...
We're meat that thinks. We are meat that thinks. That's all we are. Big fucking weird meat that sits here and thinks about stuff. Sorry.
Remembering. He says 30 seconds. Done in 30. So, that's just a preview of one thing that I kept trying to talk about. And he talks about a lot of stuff. Speaking of memes, remember this Bronco politically incorrect cartoon of Smelly Pants Clinton talking about the hot sauce in her purse? And I ain't no ways tired of pandering to African Americans. And fuck the police up in here. Look at that. No hot sauce, no peace.
Wow.
This is an interesting one, too. Expand your thinking, and there's some kind of flash going on. Bright white light. Hashtag QAnon. So I put together some video for you, a couple of video clips, and then get to work on my video for Sunday, which is going to be the Christian 21. And I think I'm going to cherry pick the subject matter so we can get to the meat of the matter quicker and talk about these Bogdanov brothers, because there's a big story behind them, and that's my tease.
Is there?
Before I cut to the video, and I'll be signing off, wishing you a wonderful Saturday, and I'll be back on Sunday.
And what it's all about is
other issue, temptation.
Well, that lady's fucking crazy. Wow. Okay. Well, I have her saved. I'm sure we'll see her again. Damn. Let's look at the bingo card. Orb Lady is suing NBC. Lovely. Illuminati Freemasons. Only reputable sources: Bible, PSYOP. Hey guys, I'm not here to sell you anything. I'm just blah 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 blah. That one. The one about selling stuff. Clintons. QAnon claimed as a source. Word salad. Did we have aliens at any point? I don't think we had aliens. We had reptilians, but I don't think we had aliens. Idiot thinks they're a genius? Sure. Where's the Chudwatch one? Line between Chudwatch and Tinfoil Tuesday thins. Is that on page 2? Might be. Aliens. Sure. Page 2. Satanic. Line between Chudwatch and Tinfoil Tuesday thins. Transphobia, transvestigation. Hannah mentions Blu-rays. accidentally based. Is there anything else? Someone said 45? What was 45? Predictive programming? I don't think so. Hannah mentions cheese for the mac and cheese joke. That's true. That's fair. Oops, that's the wrong button. Oh, yep, CBD claimed to be a cure panacea, and also... I think her selling it is close enough, that's fine. What was the other thing? Hannah mentions cheese. Okay. Still no bingo? Because we got a lot of stuff ticked off already. Especially the audience.
Hey folks, we're going to be talking about something a little out there and is something that in my eyes is going to be a pretty big problem. One of the many big problems that society is having these days, but this is just going to exacerbate, well, potentially several of them. But before we go into this...
Just getting 9 square blackout in the middle count as bingo? No. We also don't do 4 corners. It's gotta be contiguous.
Societal problem, I want to do a quick rundown and review of this geomagnetic excursion evidence that we've had recently. We just saw this paper describing the half-cycle event in between Lechamp and the Vostok geomagnetic excursions. They, because isotope dating is such a challenge and really is actually wrong a lot of the time, they can't be 100% certain that this was not part of the Lechamp geomagnetic excursion or one of the other ones, frankly, if they were being a little more honest. But their isotope dating is actually not bad, and they peg it to somewhere between 50 and 55,000 years ago. My guess is it's about 54,000 years ago. The reason for that is because we have been waiting for the evidence to be unearthed.
Is bingo the time cube? Logarth says, I was reading how an insect industry compared to meat industry would, like the meat industry, have various secondary and tertiary products produced from parts left over after processing. Keratin from the shells is actually one of the most useful natural proteins. It's used in a lot of medical products, from wound treatment to ocular repair and bone replacement, so I thought that was a neat economy that processed insects would create. I doubt the insect thing's going to happen at any large scale.
Earth at a more certain scale in terms of the half-cycle geomagnetic excursion 54,000 years ago. You might remember we just saw this one a couple weeks ago. We had already seen plenty of evidence for the
get to the sack
as
spot.
It has every 24,000 the analogy that could be out there or seen how crazy this AI technology is getting, not just in terms of things like chat GPT, not just in terms of some of the other useful technology that could be out there, but have you seen what it's doing in terms of recreating humans? We're going way beyond deep fakes here. I mean, deep fakes were concerning enough, but prudes, maybe close your eyes for a second. I'm going to show you some girls who are not real girls. None of these women that you're seeing right now are actual humans. This is all AI.
Oh, okay. It's fine. They're not naked.
Virtual generated content. And they are plugging this as this is going to be the future
that might be a little
of virtual
iffy.
Girlfriends. The future of porn. Quick moment to say,
I'm going to leave the screen not on just in case.
Men, if you're still watching porn, stop it. Those cheap dopamine hits are ruining you.
Women and non-binary folk, though, pouring it up. You're good.
It's as bad for you as social media is for women. Just stop. Essentially what we've got is, and we already have the interactive side of this moving a little bit forward. It's not as, the imagery is not as good as these single image AI generated girls, but they have really good interactions where you can actually level up. And at first they will respond, hello, how was your day, things like that. But then they actually develop emotional intelligence after a while.
Not real. It's fake. It's a chatbot.
And
it might be like a good chatbot, but it's not real.
We are going to reach a point where it's not just this. It's not just actual robots that they've designed like this, but that the marriage of near reality recreation of what men consider the ideal female is going to be married with the interactive capabilities. And I see this as a really big problem. A really big problem. We already have things like sex dolls, things like porn, things like OnlyFans able to satisfy some men. Some men have just straight given up.
Okay, that's fine. If people don't want to be in a relationship, that's fine. If all they want is sex and they're not looking for a partner, then they're probably best sticking to porn or a sex doll. Because relationships aren't about boning, they're about being with someone. Don't get me wrong, the boning is, you know, a part of that, typically, but not always. But, like, it's not why you have a relationship. You don't have a relationship just to have sex, and if you do, you shouldn't be in a relationship.
I don't know if you guys, ladies, you probably don't know this if you're on one of the dating apps like Tinder or one of the other ones. You wouldn't know this because you get dozens, hundreds of messages and likes a day. You know most men never get an interaction.
Okay. Tough. I don't know what to tell you. Like, I'm not saying I'm happy that that's the case, but like, what is your point here? Like, what is your workaround for that? Discordant Vol says electrogonorrhea, the noisy killer.
An above average guy gets a like or two every couple of days, maybe.
Do you think you're above average? Because especially with this attitude, you're not. It's not about looks, necessarily. Like, this is, you're an asshole.
If they're lucky, one DM. Men are getting not only discouraged from the field, their masculinity is being told that it's toxic.
No, certain behaviors that you justify by saying they're masculine are toxic. Masculinity is not. But if you say, me having no emotions and being angry all the time, if you say that's what masculinity is, or if you think masculinity is always being in charge of women, that's toxic. It's not that your masculinity is toxic. It's that you're using your masculinity to justify toxic behaviors by defining those toxic behaviors as important to your masculinity. Keratic Cuttlefish says, this guy is salty that the only interactions he actually wants with women can now be simulated in a fashion that he can't detect. Gnome Pickles says, most men don't get a reaction on dating sites. Well, let's look at your About Me page. Oh, see, here's your problem. Your About Me page is just you ranting about how women don't like you. Do you see what that could be a problem?
There is such a thing as toxic masculinity, but it
yes
has gone so far off the rails where literally anything that's masculine, they're trying to tell.
I've never seen that anywhere where everything masculine is considered toxic. Straw man. Bullshit. Discordant Vol says, looks might get your profile peeked at. It seems that that's where the downhill slide began for him. Right? And this guy's not, he's a normal looking guy. Like, seems like he's in decent shape for his age. Like, he's fine. There's nothing physically wrong with this guy that, like, would make me go, ew. Entirely, it's his fucking personality. Also, that might be a butterfly tattoo, and that's weird. I don't like butterflies.
tell you it's toxic. And I gotta tell you, while there will probably be female versions of this, it will not be as successful as the one for men.
Okay? If what you are seeking can be provided to you by a fucking algorithm, then you probably wouldn't make a good partner anyway, because the things you're apparently looking for in a relationship are incredibly superficial and can be, again, reproduced by a computer. If all you're looking for is to have virtual sexting sessions and be flattered by a computer program, great. I hope you do that instead of being in a relationship, because your partner isn't a sex chat bot. Scornant Vol says it might be, now hear me out, that the things he considers masculine are toxic. Could be.
When I say this is going to end up being a bad thing for women, but it is actually an insult to my fellow men. Men can be more satisfied with something visually on a screen and their hand than a woman could be.
Okay, I hope those guys don't date people then, because what they're looking for isn't a relationship, it's someone to fuck.
This should be a compliment to women, that eventually, at the end of the day, women are going to need that in-person interaction, that in-person intimacy, that in-person love. They can't be recreated on a screen. It's going to work more for guys.
I get a feeling this guy isn't a big cuddler. Aftercare for this guy is him throwing a towel at you from across the room and saying to get the fuck out.
It is already the case that it is harder and harder for good women to find a good man.
What do you define a good woman and good man as? Just curious.
To be loyal to them. What happens when the pool is so little from more and more things like this?
People date all the time. Does this guy think people don't date? The majority of people are in relationships who are of age. Pretty sure. Like, again, I'm not saying there aren't more factors in this day and age. I'm sure there are, but, like, people date all the fucking time.
And women turn around one day and realize, okay, yes, even the ones who play around with it, and they enjoy it to a certain degree, what happens when they go to say, okay, I'd really like to get back into the real life version of this, and they realize it's 4-1, 8-1, 12-1. Competition. You know, I put some feelers out about this on Twitter, and some guys were like, nope, not for me. I'll always be interested in the real thing. It's real thing.
He's speaking exclusively to a terminally online audience. Oh, I know.
For me or nothing. And I say, good for you. Good for you. But tell me I'm wrong. Am I wrong that men are more easily satisfied by things like this?
Does he not understand if that is the case, then it's good that they're out of the dating pool? If you can be sated by pornography, and the only other option for you was marrying someone who I guess you don't even like because they're replaceable by fucking porn, it's good that you are no longer putting yourself in the ring to be anyone's partner because you would make a shit partner. You aren't owed a partner if you're shitty and you don't want to engage in a relationship as equal human beings. Then you're not selling anything anyone wants to buy. You know what I mean? Women aren't clamoring to be with the guy who thinks they're replaceable by fucking porn. Like, go look at porn. That's fine. Go do the porn thing. I'm happy for you. But don't act like people are missing out because of that. They're not. Mr. Whisker says, putting your feelers out might not be the best phrase when discussing men's masturbation issues or whatever.
That this isn't going to have the exact effect I've just described on the market. And
the market?
There were women who responded to my prompt saying, like, that's stupid. I will always want a real man, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, that's my point. You will. But they're not going to want you.
Okay? I'm gonna imagine the men that they would want aren't the people who would rather fuck a robot.
When you've got women like this, and they can actually interact on an emotional level, you can type in or even...
But it's not an emotional level, they're fake. They're not real. And if you don't care, that's fine, then do that. It's whatever. It's just weird.
Say, and it'll voice recognize any command. And it'll do it. What happens when the synthetic robots get better at this? Yeah, ladies, I know you're gonna want the real thing.
Not you. Or people who agree with you, you psycho. Like, he legit thinks he and people like him are like, oh, all the women are gonna be so sad when we're not, I guess, what is his even view of relationships? Is it putting up with women so you can fuck them sometimes? Because that's the vibe I'm getting. You are a bad partner already if that is your view of relationships.
And that's your problem.
Your relationship should not be a vending machine where you put in being nice to your partner and get out sex. That's not how this works.
Because it's not going to be there, and it's not going to be as easy. Any girl, almost any girl, can go out to the club at any night and get something if she's looking for it. It's not the same for guys.
That line is so fucking wild, and to me illustrates such a depth of lack of understanding of, like, women's experience in life that it's wild to me. You have to be so self-centered and have no empathy to view that in your head and think, this is a rational way of viewing women, like, at a club or a bar or whatever. Discordant Vole says, sex is a reward for tolerating my partner's feelings and behavior.
That gap is about to close. That gap is about to close. The number of men who are in the field are going to be dwindling. They're all
good. Those men are shit. If you would rather go and jerk off than have a relationship, that's fine. But you can't simultaneously act as though women are losing out. They're not. If that's already your preference, good. Remove yourself from the dating pool. Please. God damn.
Already dwindling because of porn.
Some men are obsessed with this idea that, like, women are desperate for male attention and that they require every man to want them. No, fuck off.
Because of them being told that they're toxically masculine, because of the increase in virtual girlfriends. This has become a thing.
Virtual girlfriends.
Because of how choosy, picky, and forgive me, ladies, egotistical and self-righteous many women have become.
Gee, I wonder why this guy has problems finding dates.
Due to things
he just called half of the population of planet Earth egotistical and self-righteous.
Things like Tinder, where they're just scrolling through, they're getting all these messages, and inflated ego.
Chromatic Cuttlefish says, these are the same guys who are intimidated by sex toys.
Everybody's ego needs to be taken down several notches on things like this. And the problem is...
class houses.
This is when this comes through and it takes out a huge portion of the population of the male available suitors in real life.
Makes it sound like the VR girlfriends or whatever are gonna go Terminator and exterminate these dudes. Gnome Pickles says this man has strong opinions on the age women, quote, hit the wall. I would bet all the money I have on it, all $62.
I think this is going to be a huge slap in the face to women. You're not just going to be able to give thirst traps. What happens when visual stimulation and sexual satisfaction, guys can get anywhere else, ladies, you're going to have...
They already can. Porn has existed in infinite amounts on the internet. For fucking ever. Chatbots have existed for decades. If you want to go get a sex doll or engage with pornography instead of a relationship, you can already do that. Go do it. Go do it. All these fucking MGTOW type dudes are like, oh, we're leaving the dating pool. Aren't you gonna miss us? Oh, we're leaving for real this time. And everyone's always like, all right, do that. Fuck off. We're busy doing other things.
I have to offer something more. You're gonna have to offer something more.
Why? To get you? You're a fucking loser. Who would want to be with you? You're not a catch, motherfucker.
I promise. Good luck with that. Anyway,
okay, I gotta check out this guy's channel.
For more on the science side of things and how equally screwed we are on the natural science side of things.
On the science side of things, good lord. Oh, is this from like a channel full of like... Satan Geoengineering, is this the same guy? Can you juggle? I can juggle.
Recorded the first Goats Against the Matrix episode. We had a little bit of a microphone issue, right, Rocky?
Yeah, I guess we need a data source plugged in. It just can't go straight to power, which, you know, you live and learn.
Yeah. We fight the Matrix. We're not sound guys, but we think you'll get the picture.
Be nice if we had our backdrop here, though.
Oh my god, that audio's so fucking bad. We'll keep an eye on this guy. He's interesting. Kind of a sexist MGTOW conspiracy theorist. That's always fun. Alright. We've been going for a little over 3 hours. So we can call it a night. No bingo winner today. That's a shame. That's not what I wanted. Okie dokie.
Holidaying on the Gold Coast, and we met up in Surface Paradise.
Quest Authority, maybe? Quest Authority.
I love a good lawyer joke.
I love Quest Authority. Quest Authority is a lawyer, not your lawyer, who covers all sorts of interesting cases. So I will raid him. Love you, Mr. Blast. Happy birthday again to Broha. Remember, the Broha stream is later this month. I want to say it was set for... Let me check before I say words. 18th, I thought so. Just wanted to check. The Broha stream is set for the 18th. I will be back tomorrow for some other kind of stream. Maybe some gameplay and watching some weird videos. Maybe we'll play Fallout or something with some mods. I don't know. Well, we watch stuff. Let me know. Let me know on the Discord. Remember, we have a Discord now just for the Stanas. Okay? So if you have any suggestions for what you want to see tomorrow, leave them on the Discord. Alright, have a good night, everyone. See you guys later.